Ooh, spooky Fridays. Oh shit, I can restream on. Oh wait, no. Huh. I'd like to stream on TikTok. Whoa, so scary, TikTok. We're gonna be drawing another commission. This one is for, I think her name is Dendra from Pokemon. Stay. Are we live? Is this working? Now we're live. We are live. Alright, yeah, we're drawing Dendra. And it's Spooky Fridays. But I'm not playing spooky games today, I think. That I know of. Maybe I will. Got the intro spooky music. I might work to warm up on a little animation. Fluff anime. I haven't drawn fluff in like 3 months. Goddamn. I got my caffeine right here. Ugh, I'm an hour late to this stream. I'm so sad. So yeah, I'm gonna be working on this. I only have the rough animation done so far. Damn, I don't know where to put this mic. I had problems with it yesterday. Yeah, okay, so it's really low. Yeah, I got the rough animation, so she's supposed to be like tired and then she's gonna be sitting down after like a gym workout. So the spacing is all right for the most part. I got 34 keyframes. If anything, I kind of want this to last a little longer. Oh, there it is. I was like, where the hell? Let me do 5. What the hell? And then I just have her sitting there. Oh, it's so spooky. I'm streaming under the just chatting section because I'm also gonna have some videos playing in the background. I found this video called, alright, that's enough evening of chaos. I have this video called Paranormal Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg. It lasts like an hour and a half, and yeah, we're just we're just gonna watch this. We can do that, right? That's what people do, right? And just chatting, they're like, all right, guys, we're gonna watch the trending tab and see what's going on here, and then we're gonna give out our opinions. Except here, I'm not gonna talk much.
Mysteries have always been really intriguing.
Oh shit! Okay, I love watching icebergs while I work, cause I'm listening over there, I'm focusing here, and it's just like, it's bliss. It's so good. All right.
Mysteries have always been really intriguing to humans, and I totally see why. It's so cool to sit around and think about how these things that pretty much have no explanation could have happened. So today I found an iceberg that goes over some paranormal unsolved mysteries. These are my favorite
spooky.
kind. Let's just get straight into this. I'm trying to hit 100.
I hope it's not too loud.
Of the year, and I think we can do it. So please subscribe so we can get there.
Wait, what? They were in 75,000 followers a year ago. Now they're at 121. Wow, that's pretty good growth for this YouTuber. It's pretty good.
The Brown Mountain Lights. The Brown Mountain Lights are one of those intriguing mysteries that blend folklore, science.
Right, so for this part of the animation, I go back in and I dim this. Wait, I have the green folder. Okay, yeah, so I dim this. And then I draw over it, so I'm gonna try and clean up because there's a lot of cleaning up I need to do over here. I haven't even drawn the face in some sections here. I kind of drew what I want the hair to do. I kind of wanted to like slouch over her face, And then I don't know. But the camera's gonna be moving a little bit. We'll see. We'll see if we can keep it up for like an hour or two. Let's press play. Giga, what's up? How's it going? We're gonna what? I'm gonna be watching some iceberg mysteries while I draw. I love these so much.
Carolina, these mysterious lights have been reported for over a century, with sightings dating back to at least the early 1900s, and some claim even earlier, with Cherokee legends mentioning similar phenomena. The lights are typically described as glowing orbs that hover over the ridge of Brown Mountain, varying in color from white to blue to red. I mean, I guess that makes sense. It is in America, right? America. Anyways, these lights appear at irregular intervals, sometimes dancing in the sky, sometimes moving slowly along the ridge, and then vanishing without a trace. One of the most captivating aspects of the Brown Mountain lights is their elusiveness. Many people have tried to capture them on camera with varying degrees of success. The lights seem to defy explanation, appearing both to locals and tourists who venture to the area, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious phenomenon. Theories about what causes the lights are plentiful and diverse. Some suggest natural explanations, such as swamp gas, which is known to produce ghostly lights, or
swamp gas? I don't think I've ever seen swamp gas.
Discharges. Another scientific theory involves atmospheric conditioning, creating a mirage
atmospheric conditioning,
where lights from nearby towns or cars are reflected and distorted. However, none of these explanations fully satisfy the curiosity of those who have seen the lights firsthand. This has led to more speculative and fantastical theories. Some believe the lights are the spirits of Native Americans or Civil War soldiers wandering the mountains. Others think they might be UFOs or some form of extraterrestrial communication. The allure of the supernatural is strong, and the lack of a definitive explanation.
Dan season 2?
But no one really knows.
I still gotta watch season 1.
Despite like a bunch of investigations by scientists, researchers, and even the U.S. Geological Survey, it's still unsolved. One of the earliest documented observations of the Brown Mountain Lights came from a fisherman named William M. Smith in 1913. Smith reported seeing strange lights while fishing on the Linville River, describing them as glowing balls of light that seemed to move with purpose along the ridge of Brown Mountain. His report sparked widespread curiosity and led to further investigations. In 1916, a major flood occurred in the region, causing significant disruption. Following the flood, a group of scientists from the U.S. Geological Survey, led by George R. Mansfield, conducted an investigation into the lights. Mansfield's team concluded that the lights were likely the result of locomotive headlights reflecting off the clouds or mist. However, this explanation did not satisfy everyone, as sightings continued even in conditions where such reflections would not be possible. Then there's the Native American legend, and this tale is perhaps the most poetic and haunting. According to Cherokee lore, the lights are the spirits of maidens searching for their lost lovers, who were warriors killed in battle. These stories suggest that the lights represent the souls of these grieving maidens forever wandering the mountains in search of their beloved. This theory not only adds a romantic and melancholic dimension of the lights, but also connects the phenomenon to a deep cultural and spiritual history of the region. And it's like fascinating to think that these lights,
I'll just start her with her eyes closed.
Scientific curiosity and like creepiness were once integrated into the fabric of Native American spiritual beliefs, serving as a reminder of loss and the enduring power of love and grief. And then next we have the piezoelectric theory, which we already talked about a little bit. This scientific explanation hinges on the unique geological composition of Brown Mountain, particularly its abundance of quartz. Quartz crystals can generate an electric charge when subjected to mechanical stress, such as tectonic movements, and then this charge could potentially create the glowing effect observed above the ridge. This is a fascinating hypothesis that ties the mystery of the lights to the very bones of the earth. So, like, imagine the mountain as a giant battery.
She's got this
discharging
necklace
energy
thing
in the form of mysterious lights. While this theory is compelling, it's still unproven. Also, personal stories add a rich layer of mystery to
like a triangle.
Lights. For instance, a local resident named Tommy Hunter has become somewhat of an unofficial historian and guide to this phenomenon. Hunter has spent decades observing and documenting the lights, collecting hundreds of eyewitness accounts. He recounts stories of seeing lights that seem to chase each other, merge into one, and then split again. His dedication has made him a local legend and a go-to resource for those intrigued by the lights.
Tommy Hunter.
Appalachian State University researchers have taken a scientific approach to solving the mystery. In 2016, they installed a series of high-resolution cameras around Brown Mountain to continuously monitor the area. Their goal was to capture and study the lights in a controlled scientific manner. While they did record several instances of unexplained lights, the data was still inconclusive. That's just crazy that they still couldn't figure it out. Also, the Brown Mountain Lights have attracted a lot of attention from like paranormal investigators and television shows like Mystery Hunters and X-Files, which is insane. Now, Tommy Anderson's story is pretty interesting. In 2014, Anderson, a photographer, managed to capture high-definition images of the Brown Mountain Lights. His photos show bright, pulsing orbs that change color, providing some of the clearest visual evidence to date. Anderson's images went viral, sparking renewed interest and debate, which is awesome. His work exemplifies how a single individual's effort can significantly contribute to our understanding, or further mystification, of a phenomenon. This is so cool, but let's move on to the next one, guys. So next up, we have the Black-Eyed Children. Black-Eyed Children are a modern urban legend that has captured the imagination and fear of many people since the late 1990s. These eerie entities are typically described as children, usually between the ages of 6 and 16, who have pale skin and completely black eyes. No white in the eyes, no iris, just solid black. The stories about them often follow a similar pattern. They appear at people's doors or car windows asking to be let in, usually with strange, monotone voices and unsettling behavior. The first known account of Black-Eyed
so
Children
creepy.
was posted by journalist Brian Bethel in 1996. Bethel recounted an encounter in Abilene, Texas, where two boys approached his car and asked for a ride. He described feeling an overwhelming sense of dread as he noticed their pitch black eyes. Despite their polite and calm demeanor, something about them just felt profoundly wrong to him, leading him to drive away quickly. Bethel's story spread rapidly online, giving rise to numerous similar accounts from others who claim to have had encounters with these strange children. There are several theories about what Black-Eyed Children might be. One prevalent theory is that black-eyed children are the spirits of deceased children. This idea is rooted in the belief that the children's black eyes and unsettling behaviors signify their existence as restless souls. Proponents of this theory argue that the children might be seeking closure, assistance, or simply wandering the earthly plane because
I
of
like the
unresolved
idea that they're
issues in
just
their past
ghosts
lives.
and they're
The
gonna.
notion that they appear at people's doors or windows
No, this is
asking
better.
for help or to be let in could be interpreted as a plea for someone to aid them in finding peace. This story resonates with the
Okay.
traditional ghost story motif where spirits seek to communicate with the living to resolve unfinished business.
I
Another
think it's kinda
chilling
boring.
theory is that black-eyed children are demonic entities or vampires. Okay, so I didn't mention this earlier yet, I was gonna mention it later, but I'll mention it now. One of the
Okay.
most chilling aspects of these encounters is the children's insistence on being let in. They often use phrases like, "let us in," or "we need to use the phone," delivered in an oddly formal and robotic manner. Witnesses describe
Just like
feeling
sinners.
intense, almost primal fear when interacting with them, as if their very presence triggers a deep-seated survival instinct. So this perspective about them being like demonic entities or vampires stems from the children's need for an invitation to enter a home or a car, echoing classic vampire lore where vampires cannot enter a residence without being invited. Their black eyes
didn't know that until I saw
manifestation
Sinners.
of their malevolent nature, and the intense fear they inspire in witnesses could be a supernatural ability to instill terror. Some believe that once invited in, these entities could cause harm or bring about a curse, as suggested by reports of bad luck or health issues following encounters.
Oh,
A more
shit.
otherworldly
I
theory
already
proposes
have
that
bad
black-eyed
health
children
issues.
are aliens or alien human hybrids. Advocates of
Oh,
this
no.
idea point to their unusual, unnatural appearance and the profound sense of dread they evoke as evidence of their extraterrestrial origins. The black eyes are seen as a hallmark of alien physiology, reminiscent of that, the classic gray alien image with large dark eyes. But who knows? Also, while this one isn't really a paranormal theory, it's still worth considering the psychological and sociological angles.
I
Some
guess.
experts suggest that the black-eyed children phenomenon might be a result of mass hysteria or the power of suggestion, amplified by the internet and popular
power of-
culture. Stories shared online can create
What?
a feedback loop where the fears and details of the encounters become more vivid and widespread. And then people primed with the knowledge of these tales might interpret any strange or unsettling encounter through the lens of the black-eyed children narrative, reinforcing the legend. Now, another compelling story
Sheesh.
about this involves a woman in Vermont who reported hearing a loud knock at her door late at night. She found two children standing on her porch, insisting they need to come inside to use the phone. Their insistence and the deep fear that she felt led her to refuse entry, eventually causing the children to leave. And like other witnesses, she described feeling an unnatural fear and noticing their pitch black eyes only after a few minutes of interaction. And then in some cases, people who've encountered black-eyed children report experiencing bad luck or health issues afterward, adding to the legend's ominous reputation. These post-encounter effects contribute to the fear surrounding them and lead some to believe that letting them in would result in pretty dire consequences. So thank God not many people do that. Now, going back to the Vermont case, I want to explain it in a little bit more detail because it's pretty interesting. So this is actually during a winter storm. There was a woman in Vermont during, like a crazy Vermont winter storm. She
Oh, a
heard
blizzard.
loud knock at her door late at night and found 2 children standing outside, asking to come in because their parents would be there soon. The children
Oh, shit.
insisted they needed to come inside to use the phone. The woman felt an intense fear, but couldn't explain why. And then as she hesitated, she noticed their eyes, completely black, devoid of any white. And then she slammed the door and locked it, watching
Wait,
as
how
the children
come-
continued to stare.
How come there's no stories of anyone saying like, yeah, kid, come in, after they see their eyes? I'd like to know what happens. Black-eyed kids.
Through the window for several moments before disappearing back into the night. In another case from the UK, a man named Paul encountered the black-eyed children while walking his dog. It was early evening and Paul was on a path near his home when he noticed a child standing alone. Concerned for the child's safety, he approached and asked if everything was all right. The child looked up, revealing pitch black eyes. Paul described feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and a compulsion to leave early. He backed away and quickly walked home. His dog
Poor kids, I feel bad for them.
pulling on the leash to leave. This encounter emphasizes the geological spread of this phenomenon. Like, it's
Geological
UK,
spread?
maybe the black-eyed children there, dude. I thought all they had there was like, I don't know, like knives and chips, mate. Dude, if they can get the black-eyed children all the way from America to the UK, you'd think they could get like at least like one dentist. Like, come on. That was a joke. That was a joke. I love my UK brothers and sisters.
What the hell?
Siblings of a non-binary stature.
Bro just threw some racism
Anyways,
as a
all recent
joke
stories
for some
involved
reason.
friends camping in the woods. They were sitting around a campfire when they heard rustling in the bushes. Thinking it might
What
be
the
an
hell,
animal,
dude?
they were shocked to see 2 children emerge from the darkness. The children asked if they could drink
That was
food
out of
and
pocket.
themselves
It felt like I was in a Call of Duty
friends
lobby.
feeling uneasy, but not yet aware of the children's eyes, agreed. As the night went on, the children behaved oddly, asking strange questions and speaking in monotone voices, and then eventually one of the friends noticed their eyes and alerted the group. The realization brought a wave of panic, and the friends quickly packed up and left the campsite, leaving the children behind. While Brian Bethel's encounter is often cited as the first major event, another significant event happened in Abilene, Texas. A man reported being awoken in the middle of the night by a loud knocking on his door. He found 2 children standing on his porch asking to be let inside to use the phone. And then just like the woman in Vermont, the man felt an overwhelming sense of dread but couldn't pinpoint why. As he continued to talk to
Man,
the children, he noticed
that's a lot of
black eyes
dread.
and immediately shut the door, refusing to let them in. And then again, just like the woman in Vermont, he watched through the peephole as the children stood there for a few more minutes before leaving. Okay, then there's one more story. A particularly striking story involves
Let me
a
guess.
U.S. Marine stationed at Camp
They feel
Lejeune,
unavailable
North Carolina.
or
Too much
dread.
stuff going on in North Carolina, bro. Too much. I'm from North Carolina. I'm recording this in North Carolina right now. This is like where I'm from. And let's just say the Brown Mountain Lights we talked about earlier are not the furthest from me. It's kind of scary. In the same state, like it's a little spooky. Anyways, this Marine was in
Damn.
his barracks one evening.
Damn.
And knock at the door. He opened it to find 2 children standing there asking to be let in. The Marine immediately felt, guess what, a deep sense of fear and noticed the children's black eyes.
He didn't say
Despite
dread.
their polite request, he slammed the door shut and locked it. And then he later reported this to like his superiors, and his superiors could find no trace of the children. It's kind of scary because you'd think there'd be like a lot of cameras and stuff in a military base, but nope, no trace. All right, next up let's talk about ghosts. Ghosts are a concept that has fascinated humanity for centuries.
I would have
Material
thought the
cultures
soldier
and
would have at
belief
least let the
systems
kid
around
in.
the world. These entities are typically understood.
I need to know what
spirits
happens.
or souls of deceased individuals who, for various reasons, have not passed on to the afterlife or remain attached to the earthly realm. The nature of ghosts,
The earth realm.
vary widely depending on cultural, religious, and personal beliefs. Anyways. Throughout history, ghosts have been depicted in literature.
Ghosts.
folklore, and religious texts.
Ghosts.
In ancient Egypt, it was believed that the soul consisted of several parts, and improper burial rituals could cause one part, the ka, to become a ghost. In ancient Rome, ghosts were often seen
Wow.
as malevolent spirits and
What
needed
the
to
hell?
be
I didn't know that.
appeased through rituals and offerings. In many Asian cultures, particularly in China and Japan, ghosts are believed to be the souls of those who died tragically or with unresolved issues. Now, there are like a lot of like modern sightings of ghosts or whatever, but psychologists suggest that the human tendency to see patterns and assign agency to the unknown, known as pareidolia, can explain many ghost sightings. Additionally,
That's
the
what
power of
pareidolia
suggestion
is.
and expectation plays a pretty significant role. People who believe in ghosts or are in a setting where they perceive as haunted, they're like more likely to interpret ambiguous stimuli or just like the unknown as paranormal activities. Now, despite the lack of scientific evidence, ghost stories persist and often become part of local folklore. One famous example is the Amityville horror, where the Lutz family reported terrifying paranormal experiences in their new home,
One, two,
which had been the
three,
site of
four.
a brutal mass murder.
4
Their
fingers.
story became the basis for books and films, though skeptics have since questioned its authenticity. And then another well-known haunting is that of the Tower of London, reputed to be one of the most haunted places
1,
in
2,
England.
3,
The
4.
ghost
Oh,
of
I did 5
Anne
fingers.
Boleyn, the executed queen, is said to haunt the tower, with numerous sightings reported over the
1,
centuries.
2, 3.
Similarly, the Winchester Mystery House in California, built by Sarah Winchester,
Winchesters!
the widow of a gunman,
Carry on
is
my
famous for its
wayward
labyrinth
son.
design intended to confuse spirits that she believed were haunting her due to the deaths caused by the Winchester rifles. Now, there's a
Whoa.
lot of ghost hunting that happens, like Ed Warren. You know, he was the guy that did the Amityville horror. He basically just like investigated paranormal cases.
Whoa,
and
let me
there are
ban
a
that guy.
lot of ghost hunters.
Get
and,
banned, bro.
paranormal investigators. And Ed Warren's work obviously inspired the movie The Conjuring and like all the movies in the Conjuring verse, like Annabelle and stuff. But then what I wanted to talk about that I researched a little bit is some of the lesser known and more intriguing aspects of ghost lore that aren't super like well known or typically well known, you know? Like everything I talked about already with ghosts are like pretty like, oh yeah, duh. So one fascinating theory is the concept of time slips, where people believe that they briefly experience a different time period. These events
No, that's-
often
I
include
actually think that's
sightings of
really
ghosts that
scary.
appear as solid and real as living people, but dressed in clothing from another era and engaging in activities typical of that time. For example, there are accounts from Liverpool's Bold Street where people claim to have suddenly found themselves in the 1950s or 60s, only to return to the present moment later on. And then these experiences
Actually, no, that
raise the
sounds kinda
question
silly.
whether some ghost sightings could just be encounters with echoes from the past, like time travel. Next, I want to talk about the stone tape theory. The stone tape theory
I don't know,
suggests
I
that
have
buildings and places
to-
can absorb and later replace.
I have to like, I would have to be shown like more, not evidence because it's impossible, but like more experiences of people talking about like, I opened the closet door and suddenly I was thrust into 1955. I came out in this cafe or something, but like, it just sounds so silly. And then I was back here in 2026.
Scenes from the past, like a tape recorder. The theory posits that emotional or traumatic events can imprint themselves on the physical environment, and that when conditions are right, these imprints can be replayed, leading to sightings of ghosts. This concept was popularized by the 1972 British television play The Stone Tape, but it has its roots in earlier ideas about residual hauntings, where the environment itself retains a memory of past events. Crisis apparitions are ghostly visitations that occur at the time of a person's death or during a moment of great distress. These apparitions are often reported by loved ones who see or sense the presence of the person in their final moments, even if they're far away. So that's kind of interesting. Phantom hitchhikers are a subset of ghost stories.
Ooh,
where
that's
drivers pick
scary.
up a seemingly real hitchhiker who then mysteriously
I don't-
disappears.
Is it normal to give rides to people asking on the street? Because I feel like that's such a Hollywood thing. Because even when I lived in El Salvador, I don't think I ever came across many hitchhikers. Like, I don't think I've ever seen one in the States either. That's so interesting. But
These
they're
tales
pretty
are
scary,
prevalent
though.
around
The
the
idea
world,
of that.
variations in details, but a pretty consistent core narrative. In many stories, the hitchhiker provides an address or destination, but when the driver arrives, the passenger has just vanished. Upon
Ooh,
inquiring at
scary.
a given address, the driver often learns that the hitchhiker was someone who died years ago, typically in a car accident on that very road, which is that's like some like top tier ghost story. Like that's the stuff I love. That's creepy, bro. And then
Yeah,
another
that's so
interesting
scary.
one that we already kind of talked about a little bit earlier on is ghost lights and will-o'-the-wisps. Ghost lights, such as the Brown Mountain Lights and will-o'-the-wisps, are mysterious lights seen in marshes, swamps, and other areas. These lights are often attributed to supernatural causes such as spirits or fairies and have been a part of folklore for centuries. In some traditions, will-o'-the-wisps are said to lead travelers astray, while in others they're considered to be the souls of the dead seeking to guide or warn the living.
Ooh, like in
Scientific
Brave.
explanations, such as the combustion of gases like methane, exist, but they don't fully account for the eeriness and persistent presence of these lights in ghost lore. Also, I just want to quickly mention that there's apparently been sightings of animal ghosts, like people seeing their pets that they like,
Oh, yeah, that's
around
also really
after they,
scary.
died. And then even famous locations like the Tower of London and the Gettysburg battlefield are also reported to have ghostly animals, such as spectral horses or hounds, which is just insane and kind of cute. Next up is Girls See Ghost and Run. This video shows two young girls sitting at a table.
Oh, it's an
when one of
iceberg. I
them
forgot.
suddenly becomes distressed, apparently after
Oh, that
seeing
video's pretty
something in
scary. I
the
remember.
kitchen. Despite reassurances from the adult filming that it's just a dark room, the girl remains scared. Her friend initially laughs, but then also screams in terror after looking into the kitchen. The video doesn't show anything visible that could explain their fear, so that suggests they might have seen something supernatural or that a prank was played on them. But I'll just have my
I think it's just the
clips the video in here so you get the gist, and then we can move on. And then next,
I think it's just the fear of the unknown the kids got there, nothing else.
up on the iceberg, we have shadow people.
Ooh, shadow people are so
phenomenon
scary.
often described as dark,
No, thank
human-shaped
you.
figures seen peripherally or in dim light. Unlike typical ghost sightings, these entities are usually perceived as solid black silhouettes without discernible features. Reports of shadow people vary widely. Some people feel a menacing presence, while others experience no fear. Explanations range from paranormal to psychological, including theories about interdimensional beings, sleep paralysis, and the mind's reaction to stress or sensory deprivation. The concept of shadowy figures has existed in folklore and mythology for centuries. In ancient cultures, shadowy entities were often seen as spirits or demons. For example, in ancient Egypt, the shadow was considered a part of the soul. In modern times, the term shadow person has become more widely recognized due to reports and stories shared across media and the internet. One common scientific explanation for shadow people is sleep paralysis, a condition where a person, either falling asleep or waking up, temporarily experiences an inability to move or speak while being fully conscious. During sleep paralysis, it's not uncommon for individuals to see shadowy figures or feel a presence in the room. This phenomenon can be terrifying though, and it's been linked to various cultural interpretations of ghostly or demonic visitations. Among the many reports
Ooh,
of shadow
scary.
people, a specific figure known as the Hat Man has become prominent. Described
Wow,
as
the
a
Hat Man's
tall,
back.
shadowy figure wearing a wide-brimmed hat,
Wow.
the Hat Man is often associated with a
Haven't heard that term in a
particularly
while.
intense feeling of dread. Sightings of the Hat Man have been reported worldwide, leading some to speculate about a common underlying cause or a shared cultural archetype. Now, psychologists suggest that shadow people might just be a product of the human mind, especially
Could be.
under conditions of stress, anxiety, or sensory deprivation. The brain can create vivid images and experiences, particularly in a state of heightened emotional arousal. This theory posits that shadow people are kind of waking dream or hallucination influenced by personal fears and cultural narratives. Now, some paranormal researchers propose that shadow people are beings from a parallel dimension or alternate reality. According to this theory, these entities can occasionally cross over into our world, becoming visible to us. This idea is supported by the experiences of those who report seeing shadow people with human-like forms, but lacking detailed features, as if they are silhouettes or shadows of beings from another plane of existence. This theory aligns with the concept of a multiverse, where multiple dimensions can exist alongside our own, occasionally intersecting. Another popular belief is that shadow people are a form of residual energy or spirits. This idea posits that traumatic events or strong emotions can leave an imprint on a location, creating a type of energy that manifests as a shadow figure. These entities might be bound to specific places where significant events occurred, replaying these events like a recording. Unlike intelligent hauntings, where spirits interact with the living, residual hauntings involve energy that doesn't seem to be aware of its surroundings or able to communicate. Now, some witnesses describe interactions with shadow people that suggest these entities possess a form of consciousness or intelligence. For example, there were reports of shadow people reacting to the presence of observers, like moving away when approached or even following individuals. These experiences lead some to believe that shadow people are sentient beings with their own motives and awareness. This aspect of the phenomenon raises questions about their nature and purpose, like whether they're guardians, watchers, or beings with unknown intentions. Now, the recurrence of shadow people in various cultures and periods suggests that they may also represent a universal archetype in human consciousness. Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious proposes that certain symbols and figures, like shadow people, are shared across humanity's collective psyche. These entities might embody
Did
the
he
human
say
fear
that?
of the unknown, darkness,
This is
death,
the
sacred
type of the
manifestations of
time,
deeper
like
anxieties.
around this time of these types of videos, it's where I like to like take out Google and be like, okay, let me see if he actually said that. I won't do it here, though.
taking on a form that resonates across different societies and times. Now, in some cases, shadow people are reported in conjunction with other paranormal experiences, such as UFO sightings, poltergeist activity, or encounters with other cryptids. These instances of high strangeness suggest a possible link between shadow people and a broader spectrum of unexplained events. Researchers in the paranormal field consider these connections significant, hypothesizing that shadow people might be part of a more complex and interconnected web of supernatural activity. Now, Heidi Hollis, an author and paranormal researcher, is one of the most well-known figures to have reported encounters with shadow people. Hollis has written extensively about her experiences, describing shadow beings that would appear at the foot of her bed, often accompanied by a feeling of intense dread. These entities seemed to be aware of her and would vanish quickly when she tried to get a closer look. Hollis believes these beings are malevolent and has connected them to other paranormal phenomena in her research. Now, also the Hat Man has been seen before. One specific account comes from a man named Tim Brown, who encountered the Hat Man during his childhood. Brown vividly recalls waking up to find a tall, shadowy figure wearing a wide-brimmed hat standing at the foot of his bed. The figure exhibited a menacing presence, leaving Tim paralyzed with fear. This experience was so impactful that it stayed with him throughout his life, prompting him to research and collect similar reports from around the world. A truck driver named Greg Newkirk shared his unsettling experience on a long-haul trip. While driving through a desolate stretch of road at night, he noticed a dark, human-shaped figure standing on the side of the road. Thinking that it was a person in need, he slowed down, only for the figure to vanish as he approached. Greg, a seasoned driver, found the encounter deeply unnerving and could not find any logical explanation for the sighting. And then this obviously left like a pretty profound impression on him. A woman named Donna Stewart recounted an experience in her office late one night. While working late, she saw a shadowy figure dart across the hallway out of the corner of her eye. Assuming it was a coworker, she called out but received no response. When she went to investigate, she found the office empty and all doors locked. This recurring event happened several times over the next few months, with other coworkers also reporting similar sightings. Now finally, Tom Buckner, a resident of an old Victorian house, reported frequent sightings of a shadow figure in his basement. Tom would often see a dark, human-like silhouette standing at the bottom of the stairs. The figure never moved, but it emitted a palpable sense of malevolence. Despite numerous attempts to confront or communicate with the entity, it would just disappear whenever he approached. That kind of stuff always made me scared of my basement when I was growing up. Like, I don't know if you have basements where you live, but for me, like, my basement was like always like so scary, dude. Like, I feel like I've seen shadow people like in my basement, just like at the corner of my eye, you know? Alright guys, and with that, we're done with the first layer. Let's move straight on to
that was layer 1? Holy.
layer. Alright, and the first entry in this layer is the existence of aliens. The existence of aliens
starting
is
strong.
one of those captivating, unsolved paranormal mysteries. For decades, reports of UFO sightings, close encounters, and alleged alien abductions have fueled speculation about extraterrestrial life. Key events such as the Roswell incident in 1947 and the more recent Pentagon's release of UFO footage have kept the debate alive. Despite numerous eyewitness accounts and some physical evidence,
it's been more than that, bro.
the community remains divided.
It's been more than just that.
Proof of alien life. The Roswell incident is one of the most famous cases in UFO history. In 1947, an object crashed near Roswell, New Mexico. The U.S. military initially reported it as a flying disc, but then later retracted the statement, claiming that it was a weather balloon. This contradiction sparked widespread speculation and conspiracy theories about a government cover-up of an extraterrestrial spacecraft. Witnesses reported seeing debris with strange symbols, and some claimed to have seen alien bodies. Despite numerous investigations and official statements, the true nature of the Roswell incident remains a mystery. In recent years, the release of 3 declassified videos by the U.S. Department of Defense has reignited the interest in UFOs. These videos, captured by Navy pilots, show unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP, performing maneuvers that defy known physics. The Pentagon confirmed the authenticity of the footage, but has not provided explanations for the object's origins. These revelations have led to renewed calls for transparency and further investigation into the possibility of extraterrestrial visitors. On the scientific front, the search for extraterrestrial life is bolstered by the Drake equation, formulated by astronomer Frank Drake in 1961. Not Aubrey Graham. Don't worry. We're not talking to young women around here. Anyways, This equation estimates
Huh?
the number of active, communicative
Wait, what?
extraterrestrial civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. While the variables are highly speculative, the equation underscores the potential vastness of life in the universe. So I'm not going to go over the actual equation, but I think it's really interesting, so I'll have my editor put it on screen, and you can pause it
Oh,
if you want to
great.
look at it.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
cool.
I
Alright,
understand
and
the
then with the
equation.
equation, we have the search
One
for
simple look and I
extraterrestrial
understood it.
intelligence, or SETI. SETI is an exploratory science that seeks evidence of life in the universe by looking for some signature of its technology. The most common method is to search for radio signals from other civilizations. SETI uses large radio telescopes to scan the skies for transmissions that can't be naturally produced. Anyways, this stuff's just like really cool to me. I think that alien stuff is cool. But anyways, many individuals report personal encounters with UFOs and aliens, ranging from fleeting sightings of strange lights to detailed abduction experiences involving medical examinations and telepathic communication. These accounts are intriguing because of their consistency and the sincerity of the witnesses. One of the most notable cases is that of Betty and Barney Hill. In 1961, the Hills claimed that they were taken aboard a spacecraft and subjected to medical examinations by humanoid beings. Their detailed descriptions
that's
of the
scary.
aliens and the procedures that they underwent were revealed through hypnosis, and they've become a cornerstone of abduction literature. The consistency of their accounts, despite having like literally no prior knowledge of any similar stories, lends a pretty eerie credibility to their claims. Another chilling case is that of Travis Walton, who disappeared for 5 days in 1975 after encountering a UFO while working in an Arizona forest. Walton and his coworkers saw a bright light and approached it, after which Walton was reportedly struck by a beam of light and taken aboard the craft. His subsequent return
Holy
and detailed
moly.
descriptions of the alien beings and their ship have been the subject of much debate and investigation. Walton's story was even dramatized in the film Fire in the Sky, further cementing its place
Fire in the
UFO
Sky. I
lore.
never heard of
One
that
of the
movie.
most unsettling aspects of alien encounters is the reported lack of control experienced by the abductees. Many describe being paralyzed, unable to move or speak, and being subjected to invasive procedures without consent. This sense of helplessness and violation is a common theme in abduction stories, contributing to their terrifying nature.
Yeah, that's
Now,
pretty
skeptics
scary.
often attribute these experiences to sleep paralysis and hypnagogic hallucinations, conditions where individuals wake up but are unable to move. We already talked about that a little bit with the shadow people, and how they often experience like vivid and frightening hallucinations. While this explanation does account for some cases, it does not fully explain the physical evidence or the shared detailed like accounts among multiple unrelated witnesses. Another aspect that adds to the fear and mystery here is the idea of government cover-ups. Many believe that governments around the world are aware of alien visitations but are concealing the truth to avoid public panic or to exploit alien technology. The
Whoa.
secrecy and conspiracy theories surrounding incidents like the Roswell crash and the alleged Area 51 alien research facility fuel this belief. The idea that there is hidden knowledge about extraterrestrial life creates an atmosphere of distrust and fear, which, I mean, why should we trust the government? Let's be real. Now, some abductees report being part of a hybridization
There's a lot of
program
reasons.
where aliens supposedly conduct genetic experiments to create a hybrid species. These accounts often involve traumatic
But I get
procedures
it, I
in the
get it, I
presence
get
of
it.
hybrid children.
Time
The
to
notion that
turmoil.
aliens might be interacting with human genetics adds a pretty deeply unsettling layer to the mystery, suggesting like long-term plans and purposes beyond our understanding. The psychological impact on those who believe they have encountered aliens can be profound. Like many suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and a sense of isolation, as they often struggle to find acceptance and understanding. It's kind of sad. The fear of ridicule and disbelief makes it challenging for them to seek help or share their experiences.
Yeah, that's kinda sad.
openly, which is pretty sad because it like exacerbates their distress. Alright, next we're gonna talk about music heard on the moon. The moon has long
Music
been a source
heard
of
on the
fascination and
moon?
mystery for humanity, but one of the most intriguing stories to emerge from our explorations involves mysterious music heard by astronauts. This puzzling event occurred during the Apollo 10 mission in 1969, a critical precursor to the historic Apollo 11 moon landing. While orbiting the moon, astronauts Thomas Stafford, John Young, and Eugene Cernan encountered an inexplicable phenomenon that left them both awestruck and bewildered. As the command module and lunar module traveled separately around the far side of the moon, completely cut off from the Earth's radio signals, the astronauts suddenly heard a strange, otherworldly music, described as a whistling or woo-woo sound. This eerie noise lasted for nearly an hour. The astronauts were understandably perplexed and initially hesitant to discuss it, fearing their credibility might be questioned. The incident was recorded in the mission's transcripts and tapes, but it remained classified for years, which kind of added to the aura
No
of
way.
mystery surrounding it. When the recordings were finally declassified in 2008, they sparked a wave of curiosity and speculation, and I'm going to have my editor go ahead and play that video now so you can hear some of it.
magic even sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? Do you hear that? That whistling sound?
Some enthusiasts
Whoa,
suggested
that's so
that sounds were
scary.
of extraterrestrial origin, adding to the allure of the unknown that often accompanies space exploration. However, NASA and other experts provided more grounded explanations. They suggested that the sounds were likely caused by radio interference between the lunar module and the command module.
Could be.
The unique conditions of space and the close proximity of the two spacecrafts created an environment where such radio anomalies could occur. Despite these scientific explanations, the story of the moon music still continues to captivate the imagination. It's still pretty interesting to think about. I mean, is it really the radio anomalies? Who knows? But there's not really much more to say about this one. I mean, so the official stance from NASA is the sounds were likely due to the interaction between the VHF radios of the lunar module and the command module. This explanation is rooted in the fact that similar sounds were recorded during other Apollo missions under similar conditions, which supports the idea of a technical cause rather than an extraterrestrial one. However, not everyone is convinced by this explanation. The unique nature of the sounds, coupled with the fact that they were only heard in the space.
It's gonna be a long commission to work on. I feel like we're only gonna get through 4 frames in the span of this stream, because it's taking 20 minutes per frame. Holy.
Craft was on the far
It's just
side
a
of the
sketch
moon,
too.
away from Earth's radio signals, leaves room for speculation. Why didn't they hear it all the time? So this one is, I mean, it's kind of unsolved, but it's also kind of solved. So anyways, we're just gonna ignore that. All right, next up on the iceberg, we have calls made from beyond the grave.
Whoa. Oh, that's scary, like The Walking Dead.
I mean, it's just what it sounds like. It's like phone calls that are made from dead people. One of the most famous cases of such an event is the story of Charles Peck. In September 2008, Peck was a passenger on a Metrolink train in California that tragically collided
Oh,
with a
that's
freight
scary.
train. The crash resulted in significant casualties, including Peck.
I think I've heard about this
However,
one.
in the hours following the incident, his family received several phone calls from his cell phone.
Oof.
These calls, about 35 in total, were made over a period of about 11 hours. When family members answered, they heard only static or silence. Attempts to call back were unsuccessful. Eventually, Peck's body was found in the wreckage, and it was determined that he had died upon impact, making the source of those calls all the more mysterious.
Oh, that's scary.
Another intriguing story involves the case of a man named Frank Jones. After his death, his widow claimed that she received numerous calls from his phone number. She reported hearing his voice, which would say familiar things that he used to say in life. Skeptics often dismiss such stories as hoaxes or the result of grief-induced hallucinations, but the consistency of these
I don't know.
cultures and times is pretty intriguing.
I don't know
There are
about
several
that one.
theories that try to explain these occurrences. From a psychological perspective, some suggest that grief and stress can cause people to perceive communications that aren't there as a way of coping with their loss. Technological explanations propose that these calls could be glitches or malfunctions in phone networks, which, while rare, can create the illusion of a call from a deceased person. However, these rational explanations often fall short of providing comfort or clarity to those who experience these uncanny events. In the realm of the paranormal, these calls are often seen as evidence of an afterlife or the ability of spirits to interact with the living through modern technology. Some paranormal investigators believe that the energy and emotions associated with such a sudden and tragic death could enable such communication, as spirits attempt to reach out to their loved ones. On Reddit, people are sharing phone calls and voicemails from beyond the grave that still defy explanation, so let's read a few of those.
Really?
From Reddit user
Well, that's scary.
Plank Ashton 14. This actually happened to me. My grandmother ended up having cancer in her liver, lungs, and the bottom of the esophagus. She was in the hospital for about 16 days and had a very small chemo treatment the day that she passed. It had been about 6 months since she passed when the phone calls occurred. Since I worked in an ER at the time, I always wore my Fitbit in case there was ever an emergency at home and I didn't have my phone on me. There had been a few family issues around this time with an aunt that everyone hates, and she's been selling things of hers and stealing from my grandpa. I cried and pleaded out loud for God or my grandma to ease my worries or hurt. I fell asleep soon after, but then I woke up suddenly to my Fitbit vibrating like crazy. I looked down and started checking who had texted or called, and it said missed call from Grandma Brenda cell and missed call from Grandma Brenda home. I stared at my Fitbit and thought, okay, number one, her cell phone line is gone. And number 2, even if the phone is still working, my grandpa has his own cell phone. Number 3, why would my grandpa be up at 3 a.m. and call me out of all people? I grab my phone and see the notifications don't even show up on my phone or in my call log. Then all of a sudden I get 2 notifications on my phone saying voicemail from Grandma Brenda's cell and voicemail from Grandma Brenda home. I didn't know if I should listen to them because I was freaked out, but I did. And the first one was her saying, I hope all is well with school, work, and your mom. I love you and just remember that always. Put your stress and worries aside. Call me back soon. That was enough for me. I didn't even listen to the second voicemail. Another one comes from Reddit u/Rizazi1. Just prior to my granny passing away, she had ordered some bits from a catalog. My dad popped over to her house around 2 weeks after she died and found a "We missed you" card on the doormat. So he called the distributor to explain and to ask if he could cancel the order. When he said he was phoning on behalf of Mrs. X from X address, the man stopped him, saying he had a call from her 2 days ago canceling her order. My dad explained that wasn't possible, but the guy insisted that's what happened, saying that my granny had apologized and said that she was unexpectedly going away. Obviously, my dad had some questions.
Ooh, that's
This was the
scary.
first message he'd had from the other side via a phone call. Weirdest thing ever. Alright, I'm gonna read one more because I think these are pretty interesting. This one comes from u/need answers now. I lost my sister to quote unquote. I put that in quotations because I still don't believe it was for the fact that she left no explanation for anybody, and more so, she didn't tell me anything before it. Being a year apart in age, her and I were extremely close. I was asleep in my bed with my girlfriend when I was woken up by my phone ringing. It woke her up too. This is how I know it wasn't me dreaming. It was 3:37 a.m. I know this because when it rang, I looked at the screen to see what number was calling me and saw the time. It was a private number or an unknown number. Usually, I won't answer such private phone calls, but being half asleep and guessing it was probably a drunk friend ringing to be picked up from somewhere, I answered. I said hello, and all I could hear was this muffled kind of static sounds. No one replied, so again I said hello. Again, no response, so I thought it was just a prank call or some crap, and I was about to hang up when I heard my name get called. Paul? It was clear as day and sounded 100% like my sister. I kind of froze and started to panic. Said her name a few times, pretty much pleading it to be her. Then all I heard was, I'm sorry, I love you, please help me. The last bit is what really made me upset and uneasy, the please help me. I asked her where she was, and then I heard a really loud screeching, and then it went back to the dial tone. God, this is creepy. Bro.
Damn,
This
that is
technically
creepy. What the
sad,
hell?
too. Next up, we have the Tinome. The Tinome is a fascinating creature from Japanese folklore, known for its eerie and unsettling appearance. The name Tinome translates to eyes on hands, which precisely describes this yokai's most distinctive and horrifying feature. According to legend, the Tinome is a ghost or monster that has eyes in the palms of his hands instead of on his face, kind of like that one creature from Pan's Labyrinth. The origin story of the
shit.
Tinome is steeped in
Still gotta watch
tragedy
that
and
movie.
mystery. One popular tale describes an old blind man who was brutally attacked and left to die. In his dying moments, he wished to get eyes in his hands so that he could see his attackers and seek revenge. After his death, the vengeful spirit transformed into the Tin Gnome, wandering the earth with eyes in his hands, searching for those who have wronged him and anyone unfortunate enough to cross his path. Encounters with the Tin Gnome are described as terrifying. As the creature hunts, it raises its hands, revealing the glaring eyes that seem to peer into the souls of its victims. According to the lore, once the Tin Gnome catches its prey, it uses its sharp claws to tear them apart, supposedly devouring their bones, leaving behind a gruesome scene. One account of a Tin Gnome comes from a small village in Japan, where an elderly woman named Haruko reported a chilling encounter. Haruko lived alone in a rural area, surrounded by dense forests and far from the hustle and bustle of city life. One night, she woke to an odd feeling, as if someone or something was watching her. She couldn't shake the sensation and decided to get up and check her small house. As she moved through her dimly lit home, she noticed a small shadow on the wall. It was an unsettling shape, vaguely humanoid but distorted. Haruko's heart pounded as she followed the shadow to its source. In her living room, she saw a figure standing by the window. It was a tall, gaunt man with tattered clothes and an unnerving posture. But what struck her most were the eyes, glowing eerily, not on his face, but on the palms of his outstretched hands. Paralyzed with fear, Haruko couldn't move as the figure raised his hands, revealing the eyes that seemed to pierce through her. The eyes blinked and stared, conveying a mix of anger and sorrow. The figure didn't make any sound, but its presence was overwhelmingly oppressive. After what felt like an eternity, the figure slowly turned and walked towards the wall, through the wall, and then disappearing into the night. The next morning, Haruko shared her experience with the local priest, who told her that she might have encountered the Tin Gnome. Now, there's no actual evidence to support these things, so I'm just gonna move on. And with that, we're done with layer 2. Let's get into layer 3, guys. Hell yeah. The first entry here in layer 3 is Don Decker. So let's learn about him. I'm going to read from the wiki here. Don Decker of Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, claims that for a brief period of time, he was able to materialize rain out of thin air. He suspects that he was the victim of some sort of demonic possession. His bizarre experience began in February 1983, shortly after the death of his grandfather, 63-year-old James Kessel. On February 24th, 1984, James's funeral was held in Stroudsburg. He died of cirrhosis of the liver. Don,
Damn.
being 21, had been granted a furlough from the county jail to attend it. He was serving a 4 to 12 month sentence for receiving stolen property. It was the capstone of a troubled adolescence that involved drug use. What no one knew was that he was keeping a dark secret. Don says that James, the man that he was obliged to publicly mourn, had actually abused him physically from the time that he was 7 years old. No other part of the family knew about this. He said it was like good fighting evil. He felt that with James's death, the evil was gone and that everything would change. In fact, things would change drastically, but not in the way that Don could have ever imagined. After the funeral, he was completely unnerved by the way that his parents glorified James's memory. He decided to spend the night of Friday, February 25th with his friends Bob and Jeannie Kiefer, whom he had met a few months earlier. It was at the Kiefers' Ann Street home that all the uneasy feelings stirred up at James's funeral came back to haunt Don. He says that while he was in his upstairs bathroom getting ready for dinner, he suddenly felt strange and confused. He says it felt as though the air had gone out of the room and he was standing in a vacuum. He then fell to the floor and had a vision of an old man laughing and wearing a crown in the bathroom window. Deep scratches suddenly appeared on his wrist. When Don and the Kiefers sat down for dinner, they noticed the scratches and asked Don about them. He told them about the visions and the wounds that were caused by something upstairs. Shortly after dinner, he and Bob went to the living room. Suddenly, the air around Don vibrated with a deep chill. The Kiefers heard a loud noise from above. Almost simultaneously, water began to drip down the living room walls. Don fell into an eerie trance-like state. Bob asked Jeannie if she had water running. She said no. Bob had Jeannie come into the room and look at the water. He wondered if they had a leak, but he had no idea where it would be coming from. At a total loss, they decided to notify the landlord, Ron Van Wy. As Bob called Ron, Jeannie grabbed some pots and pans and put them under the water that was dripping from the ceiling. Don remained in a trance-like state. Bob told Ron that they had a problem and needed him to come down. Ron asked what the problem was, but Bob said that he couldn't say. But he insisted that Ron come there right away. When Ron arrived, he was just as puzzled as the Kiefers about the cause of the problem. At first, he thought there was something wrong with the plumbing, but then he remembered that there were no pipes in the front end of the house. He and Bob went upstairs and checked the bathroom. No leaks were found. Ron says there was nothing there that the water could have come from. After watching this for a while, Ron discovered that it was not only coming from the ceiling, it was also coming sideways from the wall and up from the floor. There was no basic direction it was coming from. It was also discovered that when the water struck them, it produced an oily smudge. So maybe it wasn't actually water. Ron called his wife, Romaine, and police officer John Bougin. Bougin did not know what to make of the strange scenes at the Kiefer house. He brought in his partner, a patrolman named Richard Wolbert. Wolbert said that Bougin initially told him to just walk into the house. Wolbert told him that he would not go inside unless he explained to him what he was walking into. And then Bougin just said, "Trust me, walk into the house." They walked inside, and almost immediately he was pelted by these droplets. As they stood inside the front door, Wolbert witnessed droplets of water traveling horizontally. He says one large ball of water passed right between him and Bougin and traveled out into the next room. Strangely, the water seemed to be only appearing in the living room. Bougin said he got a chill go up his spine when he walked through the house. He said that things were happening that he never dreamed could possibly happen. There was no way for them to explain what was going on. He believed that Don was possessed. At this point, Bougin and Wolbert left to report the incident to Stroudsburg Chief of Police Gary Roberts. While the Kiefers and Don, who had gone hours without food, walked across the street to get something to eat, Ron and Romaine remained behind. Remember, Ron and Romaine are the landlords. Ron says that once everyone else left, the rain stopped and the house returned to normal. He and Romaine began to think that the rain was coming from either Don or one of the Kiefers. They weren't sure which one it was coming from at the time, but since the rain left when they left, Ron and Romaine were sure it had to do with one of them. By that point, it had been 23 hours since the mysterious rain began. Pam Scrofano, who owned the restaurant opposite the Kiefers' house, had visited them earlier that day and seen the rain firsthand. She was convinced that it was the devil's handiwork and the devil was acting through Don. She told the Kuipers they should call the church and have someone look at Don. Pam says that when she looked at Don, it looked like he was in a trance. She says that he looked at her, but he didn't know that she was there. She told the Kuipers that she believed he was possessed. While they were
Whoa,
sitting in
what
the
the
restaurant,
hell?
the rain started falling there as well. Pam says she never saw anything like that happen in her life. She went to her cash register and grabbed a crucifix from it. When Pam put her crucifix on Don and touched his skin, it began to burn him. He wanted to take it off, but she told him to leave it on. It then turned black. She was convinced he was possessed. She told the Kuipers that they need to call the church and have a priest look at them. She says
I'm gonna
there's
say
no
that's
way
cap.
anyone could have played a joke like that. She was certain that it was real. And she was certain that Don was causing it without even realizing it. Even Don began to believe that he was somehow responsible. The rain inside the restaurant was the final straw. As he and the Kuipers left, the rain stopped. He says that the fact that the rain was following him made him certain that he had something to do with it. He notes that the rain never happened at the Kuipers' house until he showed up there. Back at the Kuipers' house, Romaine confronted Don, accusing him of somehow causing all the trouble on purpose. She and Jeannie yelled at him, telling him that he needed to make it stop. As they did this, the pots, pans, and cabinets in the kitchen started rattling, and then the lights went out. Don says he was levitated off the floor and his torso twisted. One witness says a green glow surrounded him. After floating in the air briefly, he screamed as he was pushed 5 feet across the kitchen into a corner. He says it felt like someone
Man, they
was
must have
pushing
been-
him all over his body at once. He says it
He
scared
must have
him
been
so
high as
much
heck.
He felt, quote, like a nuke. After Don landed in the corner, more scratches appeared. This time in the shape of a cross.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom really quickly.
cross near his inner elbow. Romaine says that she believes that some sort of evil spirit, possibly a demon, caused this. After that incident, Jeannie read from the Bible and tried to exorcise Dawn. The rain then started hitting her and only her. A few hours after the strange incident in the kitchen, officers Boujin and Wolbert arrived with Chief Roberts, a hardened skeptic. When Roberts came inside, he was also pelted with rain. Boujin believes that Roberts felt embarrassed and put on the spot, possibly thinking that they expected him to give them an answer about what was happening. Boujin says there is no way to explain what was happening. He thinks that Roberts was put in a position where he might have felt uncomfortable. Roberts would have been one of the only eyewitnesses from that bizarre night who would deny that anything out of the ordinary had happened. He told Boujin and Wolbert that what was happening was not a police problem, but a plumbing problem. They maintained that it was a police problem, but he said that Don and the Kiefers were probably playing a joke. Roberts ordered Boujin and Wolbert to leave the house. He instructed them not to file a report. In fact, he directed them not to speak of the incident at all. Wolbert thinks that Roberts just wanted out. Roberts could not give them an explanation for it, could not help them, and could not provide them with anything more than what they had already experienced and what they had come up with. Boujin says that Roberts just flatly denied that anything happened. He even tried to convince Boujin of that. Boujin, however, maintains that something unexplainable happened that night. The next day, acting against the specific orders of Roberts, 3 of his veteran officers went to the Kiefer home to try and figure out what was going on. They placed a paper bag over Don's head to make sure he was not creating the rain by spitting. One of the officers, Bill Davies, said that he gave Don a gold crossbow.
Story is
Almost
weird.
immediately, Don told him that it was burning his hands, and he threw it on the ground. When Davies picked it up, he noticed that it was hot, and he has no explanation for that. Moments later, the rain started up again. Another officer, John Rundle, says that all of a sudden, Don was lifted off the ground and thrown across the room. He says the force was as if a bus had hit Don. When they removed the bag from his head, they discovered 3 claw marks on the side of his neck, which drew blood. Rundle says he has no answer for what happened whatsoever. Davies says that he's been a cop for over 40 years and he's never run into anything like this ever. He says that there is always an explanation for something that happens, but in Don's case, he has no explanation. Finally, on the 3rd night, Sunday, February 27th, Ron was able to convince an evangelical preacher, Reverend Johnson, to come to the house and attempt an exorcism. Every Protestant minister and Catholic priest in Stroudsburg had turned Ron down. The Van Wys and the Kiefers kept vigil while Reverend Johnson prayed for Don. As she began to pray, Don appeared to go into a convulsion. He started to shake, and then he pulled himself up into a ball. Ron says that the longer Reverend Johnson prayed, the more Don began to relax. Romaine says that Don's body seemed to completely...
The story is weird because we went from reading Reddit posts on first account events of like getting calls from like dead loved ones, or reading small excerpts of people seeing black-eyed kids, to like just a full-on story with 3 arcs. Like, no explanation. They went in there multiple times. It's like, I don't know, a kind of like a 180. It looks like this is the last part of this video, but like the longest part of the video too. So I wonder how long these stories are going to be.
Quiet down. As she stood there watching this, she
I
felt
don't
the
know.
house itself seemed
Kind
to
of
take
tick
on
me out a
totally
bit.
different, more peaceful feeling. By the time Reverend Johnson finished praying, the rain was gone. About an hour had passed since she arrived. Ron says that this was the last time they saw the rain at the house. Amazingly, the rain had stopped. Don attempted to return to his old self. Some witnesses believe that Reverend Johnson performed a miracle or an exorcism. But whatever it was, the results would prove only to be fleeting. After his furlough, Don returned to the Monroe County Jail. He was placed in a maximum security cell with another inmate, and then within a few days, the mysterious rain had once again materialized, this time in his cell. He says he was sitting there when he thought, I wish I could make it rain in here. Moments later, rain started coming out of the concrete floor. His cellmate was so panicked that he asked to be moved. Don says that at this point, he realized that he could, quote, do stuff with the rain. Don's demeanor frightened the other
What?
inmates. Some of the guards witnesses the rain defying gravity as it traveled up the cell walls and flew sideways through the air. A guard questioned Don about the rain. He told the guard that he could control it. This time it was different. This time he felt powerful. He realized he could manipulate the rain at will. The guard didn't believe him. He told him that if he could control the rain, he should make it rain in Warden Dave Keenhold's office. Keenhold says that in that same moment, he was sitting at his desk just writing a report and was by himself in the administration area. At the time, he didn't feel anything unusual, but he noticed that his shirt was drooping. At 8 p.m., the guard came in to talk about Don. The guard then noticed a spot on Keenhold's shirt. Keenhold says there's a spot of water about 4 inches long and 2 inches wide near the center of his sternum. When Keenhold and the guard locked down the hall towards Don's cell, they noticed a small ball of water heading toward them. The water struck Keenhold in the chest and then, quote, splashed off. He was startled and scared when he learned about Don's apparent abilities. The guard was scared as well. They were unable to explain what happened. Keenhold called a plumber to look into the rainwater in Don's cell, but when the plumber went into his cell, he became so upset that he turned around and walked out. He said, "Don't call me for this kind of stuff." Although he didn't tell Keenhold exactly what he saw, Keenhold believes the plumber also witnessed a strange rain and was frightened by it. Keenhold was convinced that an evil spirit was involved. He made a frantic call to the jail's chaplain, Reverend William Blackburn, asking him to come there because they needed his help. Reverend Blackburn agreed to meet with Don. When they first met, he felt that Don was a meek and mild-mannered young man. Don asked Reverend Blackburn for help. He explained all the things that had been happening to him. Reverend Blackburn believed that he was making it all up and told him to admit that. Almost immediately, Don's demeanor changed and a smell came into the room. Reverend Blackburn says it is the same smell that doctors and nurses report smelling when they go into the room of someone who is dying. He said it was that smell, but, quote, multiplied 5 times. It was a, quote? Evil, foreboding smell. Don says he smelled it as well.
Wait, where's he
Don
reading
told
this from?
Reverend Blackburn that he had powers and that he could make it rain. At that point, he raised his hand and rubbed his fingers together. All of a sudden, a misty rain appeared in the room. Reverend Blackburn felt that he was in the presence of evil. He told Don that he was going to pray for him. Don told him he didn't want him to pray for him. Reverend Blackburn said, "I don't care whether you want me to or not." He opened up his Bible and started praying. Somehow the pages never got wet. He says it was a frightening thing to witness. He thinks that he was praying more for himself than for Don at that point. He says that after praying for a brief period, the rain stopped. Reverend Blackburn says that at this point, Don subsided and they could feel a peace in the room. Don said thank you and started crying. He and Reverend Blackburn hugged and prayed together. Reverend Blackburn says there is no doubt in his mind that Don was possessed. He says there is no way a human being could do what Don did in that room. He is certain that what Don did was spiritual and that it was not of God. Don says that the bizarre occurrences are over now and have never happened since. He hopes they will never happen again. He says he just goes day by day. He believes that what happened was James's doing. He says that James abused him when he was young and then had a chance to abuse him again after death. Paranormal investigator Chip Decker, no relation to Don, says that what makes Don's case so unique is that all the witnesses are credible. Many of them were well-seasoned police officers who were frightened by what they witnessed. Chip and Peter Jordan are the principal paranormal researchers in this case. They believe that somewhere there's information that is yet undiscovered that may help them unravel this mystery. Peter says that this case is by far the singularly most fascinating and important case that he has ever personally been involved in. He says that does not mean that he believes that it necessarily is proof of demonic infestation, but it is the case that comes the closest to supporting the hypothesis to him. Through his research, he has discovered that Don had been introduced to black magic as a small child. He believes that he may have had something to do with the occurrences. Now, this case is still unsolved. In October 2012, Don surrendered to the police after he was charged with setting fire to Dana's restaurant and tavern in Tobyhanna, Pennsylvania. According to the police, he was hired by the restaurant's owner to burn it down, and then he was later released on bail. But yeah, we still don't know what happened.
Wow.
This case was featured in like a TV show called Unsolved Mysteries, so it's kind of a little famous, I guess. But yeah, still unsolved. Crazy. Alright, bro. The next one we're gonna cover is called the Loco.
So it's
The
true?
Loco
That's
is one of the
crazy.
spine-chilling legends from the depths of the Congo Basin in Central Africa, a region rich in both natural beauty and enigmatic folklore. The story of a Loco, though less known globally, is a compelling, unsolved mystery that has intrigued locals and outsiders alike for generations. A Loco are said to be small, dwarf-like creatures that inhabit the densest and darkest parts of the forest. According to the lore, they are the spirits of ancestors who have taken on a sinister form, living within hollowed-out trees and fiercely guarding their territory. These creatures aren't just any spirits, but ones filled with malevolence and a thirst for revenge against the living. They're often described as being about 3 feet tall with piercing eyes and sharp claws. What makes the Loco particularly terrifying is their ability to enchant and lure humans into the forest using a small bell-like instrument. The sound of this bell is said to be irresistibly beautiful, drawing in anyone who hears it, much like the mythical sirens of Greek mythology. Once lured in, the unfortunate victim is often never seen again, having fallen victim to the Loco's deadly trap. There are numerous articles and first-hand accounts from the local people who live near the forest where Loco are said to dwell. One such story involves a hunter named Mokili, who ventured into the forest despite the warnings from his elders. Mokili was a skilled and experienced hunter, confident in his abilities to handle any danger. However, one evening, as he was setting up his camp, he heard the faint, enchanting sound of a bell. Captivated by the melody, he followed it deeper into the forest. His friends and family, who waited for his return, found only his belongings and no trace of him the next day. The elders solemnly declared that the Eloko had taken him. Another chilling account comes from a woman named Nadili, who recounted her encounter with the Eloko when she was a young girl. She described being drawn by the enchanting bell sound while fetching water from a stream. Mesmerized, she walked towards the sound, only to be pulled back by her grandmother, who had come searching for her. Her grandmother told her that she had narrowly escaped being another victim of the Eloko. Nadili remembered the incident vividly, with the haunting sound of the bell still lingering in her memory. And then we're moving to the next layer, and in this next layer, the first one we have is the Marfa Lights. The Marfa Lights are one of those captivating and enduring unsolved mysteries in the United States. Located near the small town of Marfa in the remote deserts of West Texas, these mysterious lights have been intriguing residents and visitors for well over a century. Honestly, I wish I lived near Marfa. It's a pretty cool town. Pretty cool town name, guys. Can you mention the jokes you can make with it? Like, Marfa these nuts. Anyways, described as floating orbs that appear and disappear without warning, Marfa lights
This
continue to
guy.
baffle scientists and enthusiasts
This guy.
alike. First documented in the late 19th century, the Marfa lights were reportedly
Oh,
seen by both settlers
man.
and cowboys in the area. The earliest recorded sighting dates back to 1883, when a young cowboy named Robert Reed Ellison spotted the lights while driving cattle through the Paysanno Pass. He assumed that they were Apache campfires, but upon investigation, he found no evidence of camps or people. And since then, sightings have been frequent, and the lights have become a well-known local phenomenon. The lights themselves are described as bright, colorful orbs that hover, split apart, merge, and then move rapidly across the horizon, much like the Brown Mountain Lights. They typically appear just above the horizon to the southwest of the town and are most often seen at night. The colors of the lights can vary from white to yellow, red, and even blue. Witnesses describe the lights as moving erratically, sometimes appearing to chase one another or darting quickly across the sky before vanishing. Numerous theories have been proposed to explain the Marfa lights. Some believe they are a natural phenomenon like ball lightning or swamp gas or car headlights, a lot of the same theories as the Brown Mountain Lights. And then others suggest that the lights could be caused by geological factors such as the release of gases from the earth. Scientific investigations have been conducted to uncover the mystery behind the Marfa lights. In the early 2000s, a team of investigators from the University of Texas at Dallas set up observation equipment to study the lights. They concluded that the majority of the lights could be attributed to car headlights on US Route 67, atmospheric reflections, and other mundane explanations. However, this conclusion did not satisfy everyone, including me, particularly those who have seen the lights in conditions that seem to rule out those possibilities. For locals, the Marfa lights are more than just a scientific curiosity. It's like kind of part of the town's identity and a significant tourist attraction. Each year, the Marfa Lights Festival draws crowds who hope to catch a glimpse of the mysterious orbs and participate in local celebrations. The Marfa Lights Viewing Center, located 9 miles east of Marfa on US Route 90, provides an ideal spot for enthusiasts to watch the lights. Dude, I want to go there, dude. Poi meetup at the Marfa Lights Festival at the Marfa Lights Viewing Center. Who's down, bro? Who's down? Comment if you'll drive out to Texas, fly to Texas to see Poi.
It's so funny. I can kind of tell, like, he like reached his limit with this video. It's like it used to be split in multiple parts. And now he's just like half of it is just like reading a long freaking 10,000 word story and then telling jokes. Has Nexpo released something new? Darkwood. Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that. I want to play the game. I guess
Marfa Lights Viewing
we'll
Center, located
finish
9 miles east of Marfa
this
on US
video.
Route 90, provides an ideal spot for enthusiasts to watch the lights. Dude, I want to go there, dude. Poi meetup at the
Poi meetup,
Marfa
guys. Poi
Lights
meetup.
Festival at the Marfa Lights Viewing Center. Who's down, bro? Who's down? Comment if you'll drive out to Texas, fly to Texas to see Poi.
Kinda sick, though.
Mysterious lights. All right.
Kinda sick.
Next on this iceberg is the Jack Froze mystery. The Jack Froze mystery is one of those modern mysteries that kind of like sends shivers down your spine. It began in November 2011, about 6 months after Jack Froze, a 32-year-old from Dunmore, Pennsylvania, passed away suddenly from a heart complication. His unexpected death left his friends and family devastated, but what followed added a layer of eerie mystery to their mourning. In the months after Jack's death, several of his close friends and family members received emails from his account. These weren't just generic spam messages or hackers playing a cruel joke. These emails contained specific personal details that only Jack would have known. One of the first recipients was Tim Hart, Jack's childhood friend. Tim received an email from Jack's account with the subject line, "I'm watching." The email itself referenced a
Wow,
conversation the
that's
two
scary.
had shortly before Jack's death about cleaning Tim's attic, a place that Jack had joked about being cluttered. The email read, "Did you hear me? I'm at your house. Clean your effing attic. Clean your effing attic." The email understandably spooked Tim, as it referenced a private conversation and it included details that only Jack and Tim knew. Tim, skeptical by nature, initially thought that it might have been a hacker, but the specific content made him question that assumption. Another friend, Jimmy McGraw, received an email from Jack's account that seemed to address a recent ankle injury that Jimmy had sustained. The email said, "Hey Jim, how you doing? I knew you were gonna break your ankle, tried to warn you, gotta be careful. Tell Rocco I'm sorry about his fence." This email was particularly chilling because Jimmy had indeed broken his ankle after Jack's death, and Rocco was the nickname of a mutual friend whose fence Jimmy had accidentally damaged. These emails led to a flurry of speculation and fear among Jack's friends and family. How could Jack, who was dead, send such specific and timely messages? There were a few explanations, none of which were entirely satisfying. Some suggested that Jack might have pre-written the emails and set them to send at specific times using a delayed delivery service, but this theory didn't hold up because, given the personal and timely nature of the messages. Others speculated that a close friend or family member with intimate knowledge of Jack's relationships and conversations could have sent the emails, but no one confessed to doing so. So yeah, this one's still unsolved. It's kind of crazy. I don't know, but if it's really him, it's kind of spooky. Next up, we have Phoenix Lights. The Phoenix Lights incident is one of the most widely witnessed UFO sightings in history, captivating both skeptics and believers alike. It occurred on the evening of March 13th, 1997, over the skies of Arizona, Nevada, and the Mexican state of Sonora. The event was witnessed by thousands of people, making it a significant case in the annals of UFO lore due to the sheer number of credible witnesses. So the first reports came in at around 7:30 p.m. when a flight of lights were seen moving across the sky in a V-shaped formation. These lights were described as bright and white, and many witnesses reported that they seemed to be attached to a massive, silent craft that blocked out the stars as it passed overhead. The lights moved slowly and purposefully, and some observers claimed to see a secondary light trailing the first, main formation. As the night progressed, the lights were seen by residents in cities such as Phoenix, Prescott, and Tucson. The sightings spanned several hours, and the reports varied slightly depending on the location and time of the observation. Some witnesses described seeing
Oh my
5
God,
to 6
hey, what's
lights,
up?
while others reported a series of
He's in the walls. He's in the goddamn walls. I'm watching spooky videos while I work because it's Spooky Friday. Or I'm trying to keep it spooky while I work. While I finish this commission. This one is a long way from being completed. At least I think so. Oh, man. You've seen those lights coming home after seeing your mom? They still exist? Really? The Phoenix Lights? What are they? I do remember hearing a bunch about it, but I was too young when that happened IRL. I was like 3.
orbs that seem to hover.
So they still pop up? How come no one talks about them?
Now, what made the Phoenix Lights particularly compelling was just the number of credible witnesses who reported the event.
You were the only person seeing extraterrestrials at 9 p.m. during that evening flight. Oh. Well, that's creepy.
These included law enforcement officers, military personnel, and even the governor of Arizona at the time. Initially, the governor ridiculed the sighting, but then years later, he admitted that he had seen the lights himself and described the craft as, quote, otherworldly. In the days following the incident, the media coverage was extensive and numerous explanations were put forward. The most commonly cited official explanation was that the lights were flares dropped by military aircraft during a training
It
exercise
was
at
not
Berry
flares.
Coldwater Range, which is a large military testing area southwest of Phoenix. The Air Force confirmed that the A-10 Warthog aircraft had been flying in the area and conducting exercises that involved flare drops, which they claimed accounted for the lights in the sky. However, this was kind of not right. Many witnesses and UFO researchers were not satisfied with this explanation. They argued that the flares could not account for the V-shaped formation seen earlier in the evening, which appeared to be a solid craft rather than individual lights. Additionally, the silent nature of the craft and its slow, steady movement didn't match the behavior of flares, which drift and flicker as they fall. So who knows, man? Aliens could be real. If you think aliens are real, put it in the comments below. Next up, we have the Hess-Dalen lights. These ones are pretty cool. The
They're chill. Those lights were curious. Never seemed threatening. Whoa, still so scary though.
7.5 mile long stretch of the Hess-Dalen Valley in rural central Norway periodically since at least the 1930s. The Hess-Dalen lights appear
I'm at least
by
gonna do
day
another
and by night, and they seem to float through
one
and
or two
above the valley. They're usually bright white, yellow, or red, and they can appear above and below the horizon. The duration of the phenomenon may be a few seconds to well over an hour. Sometimes the lights
So it's
move at
closer
extreme
here.
speed, and then other times they seem to sway slowly back and forth. On yet other occasions, they just hover in midair. Unusual lights have been reported in the region since at least the 1930s. Especially high activity occurred between December 1981 and mid-1984, during which the lights were observed 15 to 20 times per week, attracting many overnight tourists. As of 2010, the number of observations has dwindled, with only
Skip
10 to 20
navigation.
sightings yearly.
Create.
Ew. I clicked on something else. And it ain't the first time I've seen UFOs, like the ball of the rainbow light back in 08. The ball of rainbow light? What is that? Like in the middle of the day?
Since 1983, Project Hess-Dalen, initiated by UFO Norge and UFO's
UFO stuff is so
attempted
scary.
to investigate the lights. This project was active as field investigations during 1983 to 1985. A group of scientists, engineers, and journalists collaborated as the Triangle Project in 1997 and 1998, and they recorded the lights in a pyramid shape that bounced up and down. In 1998, the Hess-Dalen Automatic Measurement Station was set up in the valley to register and record the appearance of lights. Later, a program named EMBLA was initiated to bring together established scientists and students to researching the lights. Despite ongoing research, there's still no consensus for an explanation of this phenomenon. A number of potentially plausible theories have been put forward, though. There have been some sightings that have been disproven. They've just been positively identified as misperceptions of astronomical bodies, aircraft, car headlights, or mirages. One explanation attributes the phenomenon to an incompletely understood combustion airborne dust from mining in the area. The analysis identified hydrogen, oxygen, and other elements, including titanium. It was thought that this occurs in Hess-Dalen because of the large deposits of scandium there, but it still isn't exactly a perfect way to describe what was happening. One hypothesis put forward in 2010 suggests that the lights are formed by a cluster of macroscopic Coulomb crystals in a plasma produced by the ionization of air and dust by alpha particles during radon decay in the dusty atmosphere. So to put that in simple words, basically one idea suggests
It's so technical. Why fear them? I felt there's more out there in the galaxy. Oh yeah, no, for sure. I think there's a lot more in the galaxy too. And I think it's just spooky. Ooh. I like the spooky feeling.
Lights are created by
Not necessarily fear, but
called
spooky.
Coulomb crystals. These crystals form in a plasma, which is a state of matter created when air and dust are ionized or electrically charged by alpha particles. These particles are produced during the decay of radon gas in the atmosphere. The light's behavior, like their movement and color, might be explained by this dust plasma model. For instance, when radon decays, it releases alpha particles and other radioactive elements which can cause helium emissions seen in the lights. A physicist even found higher radioactivity levels on rocks near where the lights were seen, supporting this idea. Simulations also show that dust and ionized gas can form
that's weird.
like double helixes, similar to some of the light's shapes. But again, none of these have been conclusively proven to be what was happening here and why the lights were seen. So we still don't know for sure. It's still an unsolved mystery. Next up, we have 2374. Philip K. Dick, the renowned science fiction author, experienced one of the most bizarre and compelling episodes of his life in early 1974, often referred to as 2374 or February to March 1974. It all began on February 20th, 1974, when Dick was recovering from the effects of sodium
Particles, right.
during his dental surgery. He was at home when he delivered Darby, a pain medication. Struck by her beauty and particularly by the gold necklace that she wore, Dick asked about its fish-shaped design.
Yeah, I don't think it was
Explained that
particles
it was a
either.
symbol used by early Christians known as the ichthys. As the sun glinted off the pendant, Dick experienced a striking vision, a pink beam of light that seemed to emanate from the necklace and directly into his mind. This pink beam of light had a profound effect on Dick. He described it as imparting wisdom and even a sense of clairvoyance. In one startling instance, the beam gave him the knowledge that his infant son was dangerously ill. Acting on this information, Dick and his wife rushed their son to the hospital where doctors confirmed a serious condition that required immediate attention. This incident bolstered Dick's beliefs that the pink beam were not only real, but also intelligent and benevolent. Following this initial experience, Dick began to have a series of vivid and often overwhelming hallucinations. Initially, he thought they might be side effects of his medication, but as the weeks passed, he found this explanation increasingly implausible. He described these hallucinations to his friend Charles Platt as, quote, an invasion of my mind by a transcendently rational mind, suggesting that he felt as though he had been living in a state of insanity his whole life and had suddenly become sane. Throughout February and March of
Whoa, what the
1974,
hell?
these hallucinations persisted and evolved. Dick saw geometric patterns, brief visions of Jesus, and scenes from ancient Rome. As these experiences became more intense, he began to feel as if he were living two lives simultaneously. One as himself, Philip K. Dick, and another as Thomas, a Christian persecuted by the Romans in the 1st century AD. He referred to the rational mind behind these visions as Zebra, God, and Valus, an acronym for Vast Active Living Intelligence System. These experiences had a profound impact on Dick's work. He wrote about them in a series of novels, starting with the semi-autobiographical Radio Free Albemuth and continuing with Valus, The Divine Invasion, and the Transmigration.
This guy just wanted to write books. So, solution: extraterrestrials, coincidence? I think not. See, those outwardly beings can't be helpful.
Of Timothy
This guy wrote 2 books.
Of reality, divinity, and the nature of human consciousness, heavily influenced by his experiences during 2374. Now, Dick's experiences also led him to some rather extreme actions. In 1974, he wrote a letter to the FBI accusing various individuals, including Frederick Jameson, a professor at the University of California, San Diego, of being foreign agents for the Warsaw Pact. He even suggested that Stanislaw Lem, the famous Polish science fiction writer, was not a real person, but a committee operating under communist orders to control public opinion. At one point, Dick believed that he was now taken over by a spirit of the prophet Elijah. He found connections between the novel Flow My Tears, the policeman said, and a story from the book of Acts in the Bible, despite having never read that biblical text. He documented these experiences and his reflections on them in a private journal he called Exegesis, parts of which were later published posthumously. Philip K. Dick continued to explore
he's dead,
his
okay.
writing until his death in 1982.
Damn.
His last novel, The Transmigration of Timothy Archer, was published shortly after his death and is often seen as a culmination of the ideas and experiences that began in the months of 1974. The 2374 incident remains one of the most intriguing aspects of Dick's life. Like, it's still an unsolved crazy mystery, like what happened, because like it's obviously not real, right? Next, let's talk about
Yeah, I
the
don't
Naga
think so.
Fireball. The Naga Fireballs, also known as
You often dream of having a past self, and it does happen quite frequently.
Mekong
Oh,
lights are one of Southeast Asia's most
yeah, I've heard
intriguing and
about a
enduring
lot.
unsolved
Heard a
mysteries.
lot
This
about that
phenomenon
with
occurs annually
friends
along
and
the
family.
Mekong River, particularly near the town of Phon Phisai in Thailand, usually during the end of the Buddhist Lent in October. Thousands of locals and tourists gather to witness this spectacle where glowing red orbs, ranging from the size of a pea to the size of a basketball, rise silently from the river and ascend into the night sky. Descriptions of the fireballs vary,
Hold
but
up.
they are
Let me redo
generally
this. These
described
legs.
as reddish orbs that emerge from the river's surface and float upward without making any noise. The fireballs can appear sporadically over several hours, sometimes in large clusters or in singular instances. Witnesses report that the lights are bright and disappear after a few hundred meters, leaving no trace. The origin of the Naga fireballs has been a topic of much debate and speculation. Several hypotheses have been proposed, but none of them have been conclusively proven. One popular local belief is that the fireballs are created by the mythical serpent Naga, which is said to inhabit the Mekong River. According to this legend, the Naga breathes out the fireballs as a way of celebrating the end of the Buddhist Lent and to pay respect to the Buddha. On the scientific front, various theories have also been suggested to explain this phenomenon. One hypothesis is that the fireballs are a natural result of methane gas released from the riverbed. This gas, produced by the decomposition of organic material, could ignite when it comes into contact with the air.
So many lines. So many lines.
Critics of this theory point out that similar methane gas emissions occur in other rivers around the world without producing these like fireballs. And then another theory proposes that the lights are a form of phosphine gas, which can spontaneously combust when mixed with certain elements in the air. But this is also met with skepticism as it doesn't fully explain the regularity and specific timing of the fireballs. And then some skeptics argue that the phenomenon is probably just man-made, that like the fireworks or flares are released from the riverbanks to create the effect. But this explanation fails to account for the numerous and consistent reports of the fireballs long before the pyrotechnics like needed to do it were available and like modern and like invented. So despite these theories, no definitive scientific explanation has been confirmed. The Thai government and local authorities have conducted investigations, but the elusive nature of these fireballs and their sporadic appearances still make it challenging like to investigate. And we still don't know for sure like what's causing this. But thousands of people still go there every year to see it. It's crazy that this is just like a thing that happens. Next up, we're gonna talk about
The date you always remember is July 17th, 1997. A death date of your past self, a great memory of your past self. I was in a place of a giant water park in the middle of nowhere, right next to the mall plaza with a giant bakery. That's crazy. That's crazy. Whoa. July 17th, 1997. I was like 3.
Haunting of Wat Samian Nari. Now, full transparency, I'm gonna read from an article about this one because I found an article that goes really in depth. I'm just gonna use that as my resource for this. And you can find all the links in the description of the iceberg. So this guy named Noom was driving back to his apartment in Lat Faro at 3 a.m. after a night of partying on RCA. Along the way, two good-looking women dressed in black flagged him down for a ride. Being a red-blooded guy heading home alone, Noom picked them up. They wanted to go to the Wat Samian Nari, a temple in the capital's district. One sat in the passenger seat and the other in the back. They barely spoke, giving only terse replies to Noom's attempts to chat them up. They looked sad, so Noom gave up asking for their numbers. He thought the pretty girls must have had just like a terrible day, and given their black clothing, he assumed they were going to grieve for a relative at the temple. It's what happened next, as later described by Noom on a paranormal radio program that vaulted the story into the imaginations and created yet another ghost story for people to share and shudder over in a city with possibly the most hauntings per capita, Bangkok. As Noom told Shock FM nearly 15 years ago, he was pulling up to Wat Samian Nari when he turned to ask where they wanted him to park, but they were gone. Shocked, confused, and
Oh, they were
disbelief, he looked
gone.
around for the
That's
girls.
scary.
That's when he saw them about 10 meters away, crawling on the train tracks that ran past the temple. Well, not all of them, only their top halves, pulling their torsos along the track, their entrails dragging behind.
Ew,
Noom
what the hell?
passed out, and next thing he knew, he was waking up in a hospital. His parents said he'd been found unconscious. No one believed his story, including the doctor, who said he must have just been drunk. Afterward, Noom said he developed heart trouble and never returned to the area. His story, told to Shock FM host DJ Pong, is one of the most repeated time and again in the many media channels which comprise a thriving industry serving an insatiable appetite every day, not just Halloween. On programs such as Workpoint Entertainment's Man vs. Ghost, people call in with their own paranormal encounters, often involving contact with loved ones from beyond the grave. And like other stories, Noom
Even the people who were in the dream were in the late 90s attire, the style of clothing, and then having flip-flops and having enjoyed the water in the park.
stories
Damn,
spread
that's vivid as
quickly and
heck.
became popular. It
Maybe,
started
right?
with taxi drivers, and soon the original tale
The
spawned
great
copycats
mystery.
with similar tales of black-clad hotties haunting the same spot. Now, with the proliferation of the internet and blogs, a new platform has since emerged for breathless discussion of ghost stories. There, people poring over such stories claim to solve the mystery of the temple's haunted hitchhikers. The consensus of the many blog posts about ghosts out there say that back in the 1990s, two sisters were killed while riding a motorbike to their mother's funeral there. A train hit them, cutting their bodies in half. Some even claimed that a newspaper ran a front-page story headlined "Horrible Death Cut in Half" with the two sisters' names. But no story could be found in the archive of that newspaper, but the archive only goes back to 1997, so it could have happened in the 1991, 1992, etc. So we don't know. But yeah, it's completely unsolved still. We don't know what the hell Noom's story really was. Was it a ghost? Yeah, probably. Sure. Next up on the iceberg, we have the Hornet Spook Light. And for this one, I'm getting my information from JoplynMissouri.org. Bobbing and bouncing along a dirt road in northeast Oklahoma is the Hornet Spook Light, a paranormal enigma for more than a century. Described most often as an orange ball of light, the orb travels from east to west along a 4-mile gravel road called the Devil's Promenade by area locals. The spook light, often referred to as the Joplin Spook Light or the Tri-State Spook Light, is actually in Oklahoma, near the small town of Quapaw. However, it is most often seen from the east, which is why it's been attached to the tiny hamlet of Hornet, Missouri, and the larger, better-known town of Joplin. According to the legend, the spook light was first seen by Indians along the infamous Trail of Tears in 1836. However, the first official report occurred in 1881 in a publication called the Ozark Spook Light. Also, I guess by Indians they mean Native Americans, I'm assuming. Okay, JoplinMissouri.org, you gotta stop being racist. This ball of fire described as varying from the
That's
size
so
of a
funny.
baseball to a basketball.
He's like, stop being
Dances
racist. When like 40 minutes ago, he told like a semi-racist joke to himself. That's funny.
And disappears. Others have said that it sways from side to side like a lantern being carried by some invisible force. In any event, the orange fire-like
Last
ball was
night, you were at a theme park similar to Universal Studios, mostly modern, but still has that eerie, nostalgic vibe, and a diner owned by 2 Italian immigrants, known as the Great Pasta Dishes. Known for their great pasta dishes. That's so cool.
been appearing nightly for well over 100 years. According to locals, the best time to view the spook light is between the hours of 10 p.m. and midnight, and it tends to shy away
Wait,
from large
you were there for real, or was that also
Though
like a
many
dream?
Paranormal and scientific investigators have studied the light, including the Army Corps of Engineers. No one has been able to provide a conclusive answer as to the origin of the light. Many explanations have been presented over the years, including escaping natural gas, reflecting car lights and billboards, and the will-o-wisps. However, all of these explanations have failed to be conclusive. As to the theory of escaping natural gas, which is common in marshy areas, the Hornet light is seemingly not affected by wind or by rain, and how would it self-ignite? One possible explanation that is not easily discounted, but also not yet proven conclusive, is that the lights are electrical atmospheric charges. In areas where rocks deep below the Earth's surface are shifting and grinding, an electrical charge can be produced. This area, lying on a fault line running east from New Madrid, Missouri, westward to Oklahoma, was the site of 4 earthquakes during the 18th century. These types of electrical
Also a dream,
fields
okay.
are most commonly associated with
Sheesh.
earthquakes. Other interesting legends also abound about the light that
You should
provide
write them
ghostly
down.
explanation.
Maybe you could
The
like
oldest is the story of
figure
a
something out.
Indian maiden who fell in love with the young
I know
bird.
people
However,
when they
her
write down their
father
dreams, like they
married the
can
maiden
usually
because
like
he did not have
focus
a
in on the like extra details.
Dowry? Is that a dowry? Yeah, dowry.
I think.
Am I just brain rot?
At least that's what we used to talk about in my one of my classes for storytelling.
This looks like a pretty common word. I just looked it up. Anyways, whatever. The pair eloped, but they were soon pursued by a party of warriors. And according to the legend, when the couple was close to being apprehended, they joined hands above the spring river and leaped to their deaths. It was shortly after this event that the light began to appear, and then it was attributed to the spirits of the young lovers. Another legend tells the story of a miner whose cabin was attacked by Native Americans when he was away. Upon his return, he found his wife and children missing and is said to continue looking for them along the old road, searching with his lantern. That one sounds a little racist, though. Others say that the spook light is
Yeah, just a little bit.
Native American chief who was decapitated in the area and continues to search for his lost head, with the lantern held high in his hand. But I don't know, man. I gotta go see it for myself, I guess, bro. And that's the end of the iceberg, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I had a bunch of fun making this one.
Yeah, the video was
If
alright.
this video gets enough views, it seems you guys like it, I will love to cover other subgenres of unsolved mysteries. This is just the paranormal side of it. There's so many other kinds of unsolved mysteries that I'd love to talk about in an iceberg video, so let me know what you guys want to see in the comments. Have a great night, everybody, and sweet dreams.
What else does this guy have? Yeah, like in my class, our teacher was talking about that he had a dream journal next to his nightstand, and he would make a habit of writing down whatever he dreamed of every night, and ultimately that led supposedly to him being able to like focus in on the details in the dream. And supposedly he started noticing that certain parts of his dreams weren't like fully rendered, and you could see like faces that weren't faces. They were just like humanoid faces, kind of like, okay, in the dreamscape it's like, okay, normally you wouldn't really focus on people's faces, so it's like I don't know. Sometimes I do wake up and write my dreams for like possible storytelling things, but it's like I've never gone down the rabbit hole that much. So that's on my teacher. I should. A long time ago, another dream was that I was on a road trip to Colorado and ventured through the mountains in a Jeep Wrangler. And you've never been to Colorado? Sheesh. That's pretty cool. I need more caffeine. I need more caffeine. What is this? 6 days ago. Disturbing caving accidents. Horrors of Appalachian Mountains. Disturbing urban legends. Okay.
There are so many.
Wow, he's changed. Look, he's completely changed. He even changed his microphone. Holy moly! Like let's listen to what his mic sounded like. I think it was like a year ago.
Unsolved mysteries have always been.
Yeah, it's exactly a year ago.
Ghosts. Ghosts are a concept that is.
I feel like it sounds like way more confident now.
Appearing in cultures and belief systems around the world. There are so many urban legends out there that have existed in folklore and.
Yeah, wow, good for him. I'm so proud of this guy. I'm gonna subscribe. What the hell? I hate getting text. Stop it. All right, we might actually just finish this whole video. We're like halfway through the stream. Let me see everything that I've gotten done so far, though. 4 frames. 4 frames in an hour and a half. But you know what? I'm pretty happy, considering it's going to be 36. So I've got the hand going up, the hand grabbing. So let me see. So it's going to be this. It's Dendra from Pokemon. And the commission is them opening a water bottle, sitting down and drinking it, and looking tired because I guess they just worked out. And then it loops. There's a couple of things I need to do timing wise, but for the most part, this is fine. And I've showed it to the commissioner, and they're pretty content with it too. So it's gonna be up to me if I want to make the jacket really that detailed, because I do have a lot of wrinkles on it that unfortunately do tend to change a lot as she's moving. So there's a pretty good chance I might just simplify it like this one here, but at the same time, I kind of don't want to make it too simple, you know. So I might research some jacket wrinkles, perhaps, but for the most part, I think it's fine, at least with the movement. Last night dream, you were walking in the middle of a busy highway and also got hit by a truck. Oh my God, that's crazy. Could that be how my past self? I don't know. Perhaps. That's crazy. Have you spoken with like a professional or like I don't even know who I would go to. Like, there's a palm reading place by my house, so I don't know where I would go to talk to someone about. Maybe there's like a paranormal Discord that maybe like-minded people. Been a good stream, thank you. Yeah. I do want to go back to playing games, but like, I do want to get these commissions done. Also, because I'm still trying to figure out how I can make a bit more money on mine, but like, it's gonna look really good. Especially when it's like all fluid. So I'm pretty excited. Also, it's gonna look good in the portfolio. Ultimately.
And in culture for so long. And every US state has a lot. And today I'm gonna cover the
Yeah, like a dream psychologist. Like, sometimes people can like figure things out, or if they go under like hallucinations, you know, like they're like dream therapy. Like, also, I just heard about those things. I know nothing of them. So don't take my word for it. I'm literally just a consumer when it comes to these topics. I was gonna start the stream earlier because I did have an idea to like work on commissions for like 3 hours, and then spend like an hour or two recording some videos that I want to upload on YouTube. But I think I'm just gonna leave that for tomorrow. I might stream earlier. I might do the same thing, work on the commissions for a few hours, and then I'm gonna focus on some YouTube content. But I'm gonna keep working, maybe like another hour perhaps.
Scariest one from every US state. Shout out to this Reddit post. I am taking a lot from this, so shout out, but not all. Some are other ones that I chose. Also, we got so many guest appearances in this video, guys. Just wait, it's gonna be awesome. It is mostly me though, so sorry. But let's get into it. I'm actually gonna go from bottom to top alphabetically, so I'm gonna start with Wyoming and then make my way all the way to the A's, because I wanted to be special and different. But before we get into this, be sure to subscribe if you want more videos like this. I have an Instagram and a Discord. Go follow, go join, let's hang out, let's talk. And yeah, let's get into this, starting with Wyoming. For Wyoming, the urban legend is the ghostly Platte River ship. This urban legend originated when 3 different early pioneers of Wyoming each saw an ancient ship that is said to have apparently drifted down like mist upon the Platte River. And you would never guess, but the ship brought death with it. The Cheyenne Bureau of Psychological Research apparently recorded these sightings directly from the eyewitnesses themselves. The first sighting was from a man named Leon Weber in 1862. And remember, these are the early pioneers of Wyoming. Did we not fucking discover Wyoming until 1862? I thought that's like when cars were made. Whatever, man. Fuck the American school system. Anyway.
Wait, 1862 was not when cars were invented. Oh,
Weber decided
I'm just gonna.
to build a log cabin for his.
Wait, did he actually say that? Wait, to make sure I'm not just like making up stuff. 1860s.
Weber decided to build a log cabin for his sweet sweetie, and the site he chose was located on the Platte River. He was building this cabin when apparently he looked upstream on the North Platte, and he reported being startled to see a gigantic ball of fog riding on the surface of the water. Weber ran toward apparently recorded these sightings directly from the eyewitnesses themselves. The first sighting was from a man named Leon Weber in 1862. And remember, these are the early pioneers of Wyoming. Did we
Oh, I just noticed he's got like little avatars now. That's cool.
not fucking discover Wyoming until 1862? I thought that's like when cars were made. Whatever, man. Fuck the Americans.
1862 in cars is crazy. Maybe I'm incorrect. I'm sure it was like early 1900s. Oh well. Oh well.
Anyway, Leon Weber decided to build a log cabin for his sweet sweetie, and the site he chose was located on the Platte River. He was building this cabin when apparently he looked upstream on the North Platte, and he reported being startled to see a gigantic ball of fog riding on the surface of the water. Weber ran toward this thing, I guess to find out what it is, and out of the mist came a boat. He could hear faint sounds of rowing and of, like, seamen yelling boat person commands. Weber said that the men started staring at him with a blank face while in a circle. Apparently he also saw the ghost of Margaret Stanley, who I had to Google for this video, and apparently she was like English royalty or something. So personally, I don't know, go eat some beans and stab someone, Margaret. Also, I want to point out this.
Wait, what? Go eat some beans and stab someone? Bro. He's like this guy. That's like the third English stereotypical humor against British.
Weber
oh well.
said that he yelled Margie, so I guess they were friends. The ship disappeared and he waited, but it never came back, and later he told investigators that he left Wyoming because of this ship. Because whenever he got back, he learned that his sweet sweetie for whom he was building the house was dead. The next sighting was from a man named Gene Wilson in 1888. He was rounding up some stray cattle along the Platte and his dog began barking at the river. Also, I forgot to mention this, but the first guy, Weber, his dog was also barking at the ship. Anyway, back to Gene Wilson, he, guess what, also said that he saw the ship. He also saw sailors and he saw the corpse of his wife. Whenever he got home, he found that his wife was also dead, just like Weber. Finally, Victor Heeb. He was chopping trees in 1903 when he saw a huge ball of fire on the river. He saw a dead loved one's corpse and then later found out that the dead loved one had died while he was watching the ship as well. Not a wife this time though, it was a friend named Thomas. This story appeared in the Fate magazine in 1948, which was co-founded by a fiction writer named Vincent Gaddis, who also happened to write about half the content in the magazine. People have tried researching this Platte River ship to verify its story. For example, the magazine said all of the interviews and first-hand accounts were, again, connected by the Cheyenne Bureau of Psychological Research and was, done by that organization. But the skeptics actually found that there is no evidence that this organization ever even existed. So this whole thing is just complete fiction. Actually, this is cool as fuck. This Vincent Gaddis guy, he coined the term Bermuda Triangle. So he's a great fiction author, I guess, which sadly makes this urban legend most likely false. It's a cool as fuck idea though. Shout out Wyoming. This is probably the coolest thing that you guys have going for your state. Also, I was gonna do a bit in this script where I look up famous people from Wyoming and mention one of them like, oh, and also this guy. But I tried and there's absolutely no one cool from Wyoming. Except maybe Dick Cheney, he's just funny. The next state we have is Wisconsin. The urban legend from this state is the Rhinelander Hodag, who, according to the Cryptid Wiki, is referred to as a fearsome critter. In 1893, newspapers reported the discovery of a hodag in Rhinelander, Wisconsin. It had, quote, the head of a frog or a bear, which, pause real quick already, bro. Those heads look completely different. Like, how are you going to confuse the head of a frog and a bear? But anyway, continuing, quote, a large lizard-like body, large protruding tusks, the horns of the bison, the grinning face of a giant elephant, thick, short legs set off by huge claws, the back of a dinosaur with spines, and a long tail with spear at the end, end quote. The reports were seen as most likely the opening to a prank, because there was a fucking awesome guy named Eugene Shepard who was locally well known as a prankster, and he rounded up a group of people to capture this creature. And the group he created also said that they were going to use dynamite to kill it, so this guy is officially my hero. Like, imagine being known as a local prankster and being famous for that. A photograph of the remains of the blown up, charred animal was released to the media, and we actually still have it. This image is so cool. Shepard went on to claim he had captured another hodag in 1896, and this one was taken alive. According to his reports, he and, quote, several bear wrestlers placed chloroform at the end of a stick and got him that way. He ended up bringing it to a county fair and was charging money from people to see it. So he basically was a con man, and he later admitted that it was a hoax, because a bunch of scientists from the Smithsonian said,
Yo,
"Hey,
what's
we'll
up?"
look at it. But Shepard said that the hoax part
Cold Spring
was
has
that
been
he
good.
captured
So
He
far, I'm
posits
going
that
okay.
the
Still got a
actual
new art
hodag
done. Nice. How's it going? Yeah, sorry I was gone for a while. I got like really sick. I started streaming again yesterday, and I've been mainly just working on commissions. And now we're watching iceberg videos while I draw. I'm glad everything's going well on your end, though. I'm glad you're okay. Thank you for stopping by, though. Thank you.
was real, he just hadn't actually captured one. And since then, the hodag became the official symbol of Rhinelander, Wisconsin, with it being the mascot of the high school, the county festival, the website, a whole bunch of shit, and there's even a huge statue at the Rhinelander area
Actually,
Chamber of Commerce. The next
they're saying the Artemis 2 is about to enter, and we might be able to hear the sonic boom. Can we hear the sonic boom?
Likely not,
Oh,
but it's possible.
okay. Loving how you're making that latest commission of yours, by the way. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I've decided to make everything animated this year, so it's just been a lot of grinding. The last like 4 months since the year started, but it's been nice. Like, I really want to push it hard. So this one's just Dendra for Pokemon, and we're just gonna like have her opening a water bottle and drinking it. Supposedly she's supposed to be like in a gym, so it's pretty dynamic. We went through a few phases, but the commissioner's pretty happy with it, I think. I'm excited to see how it looks at the end. Supposedly there's going to be like 34 frames, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be like 60 at this point. It's all good. Hope, and you're welcome. Hope you saw my main account's working. I did. I've been seeing notifications pop up on my phone. I need to actually log into DeviantArt. It's just... I need to stop only posting on Twitter. I need to start posting on the other social medias. Like, I've been meaning to log back into DeviantArt, but I have seen your notifications of you coming back, and I'm really happy to see them pop up. So I'm glad you're back, to be honest. Just like old times. forgot how big this has to be. I forgot. Thank you. I'm excited too. You'd recommend that too? Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's so easy to just like post something on Twitter because it can just be text based. You can do a poll, and then like Instagram, for example, it's so video focused. So it's like, oh, I get all like full of anxiety when I'm thinking of like, okay, I gotta post a reel, which is why I'm recording everything here, and I'm recording my time lapses, so that I can just turn those into video format. ¿En cuánto entra? Hold up. I'm gonna be right back. Everyone's looking at the entrance of the Artemis 2 right now. I'm gonna take a look really quickly. I'm gonna leave some spooky music playing. 1 second. All right, I'm back. Artemis 2 landed a minute ago. That was so cool. Modern day moon travel. So cool. This style makes me think of Little Witch Academia, how you're animating it. Oh, wow. Thank you. I do have a few, like, Little Witch Academia things I'm doing as well on the side. Yes. Yes. Oh, my camera. Let's go back to the spoopy video.
Urban legend for West Virginia
Urban
is
legends.
the White Things. So little is actually known about the origin of these. The earliest thing that I could find is that a student in Kanawha County may have claimed to see one, but that's the first mention I could find at least. But the White Things really became popular in 1965 when Dr. Ruth Ann Musick published a book called The Telltale Lilac Brush and Other West Virginia Ghost Tales. So basically, it seems that this tale of white things was popular and a vocal story told by people, and the first time it was ever really written down was in this book. Musick wrote that these creatures can be seen as revenants in animal form, but also she said that even that isn't a good explanation. These things are so weird that they're hard to describe their purpose apparently. She said, quote, "The creatures in these stories are
I didn't pause the music. It was
identify or
too good for
explain.
this video. I was like, what the
Unlike
hell?
ordinary ghosts, which have some kind of rationale, creatures seem to have no connection with the real world. They sometimes resemble real animals, but are never quite like them," unquote. Now, what do these white things actually do? There was one folktale about them submitted by Thomas A. Burford in 1954. The story goes that there was a woman who was riding home from church one night and saw a white thing. It was larger than a dog, but not as big as a horse. It has razor-sharp teeth and, quote, "screamed like a woman in terrible agony." So she was hurrying to get to her house, and she eventually left her horse behind for some reason. Anyway, when she got back outside the next day, the horse was torn to bits. So yeah, these little white things are genuinely terrifying, and I love a good folktale like this. Next up is Washington. For Washington, I'm going to be cheating a little bit. So first, I considered covering the Black Lodge, which is my favorite urban legend maybe ever. It's been a urban legend for hundreds of years, and then David Lynch and Mark Frost appropriated it and, kind of took inspiration from it and included it in their show Twin Peaks, which is one of my favorite shows ever. But it didn't seem like it would have a wide enough audience. Bigfoot is here, but that's too obvious. Then I saw that there was the Caddy of Cadborough Bay, and it was from that Reddit post. But then I found out that apparently it's only ever been spotted in the Vancouver side of Cadborough Bay. But after searching for a while, I'm still gonna cover this caddy. It's rumored to exist in the bay, which is still partly in Washington, so it counts. Sorry, Washington people. At least you guys had the coolest football team name for a year. The Caddy of Cadborough Bay is an alleged sea monster that is described as a long serpent-like beast with flippers, hair on the neck, and a camel-like head. It's somewhere between 40 and 70 feet in length, and there have been over 300 claimed sightings during the past 80 years. The first sighting of Caddy was in 1933 by a Victoria lawyer and his wife on a cruise in their yacht. They described a, quote, "horrible serpent with the head of a camel." The creature shows itself again in 1934 when two members of the provincial government reported seeing the creature, the same description as the first sighting. Two fishermen saw it later that year and said it was 60 feet long. Now, it gets crazy in 1937 when a photograph of Caddy was actually supposedly taken. No scientist can properly identify the creature here in the photo, but it does look like what people described. Some people have said it could be a Basilosaurus, which is an ancient genus of sea creatures that lived about 33 million years ago. Honestly, that's cool as fuck. I love ocean, sea shit like this, bro. Next up we have Virginia. And for Virginia, we have the Bunny Man. Now right away, this is not referring to Cemetery or Frank from Donnie Darko. Sorry to disappoint. The Bunny Man is an urban legend that most likely originated from two incidents in Fairfax County, Virginia in 1970. There's a few variations which we'll cover, but they all involve a man wearing a rabbit costume, or a bunny suit, who attacks people with an axe. And this honestly might be where Cemetery got the idea for that song. One version named a suspect and a specific location. This was posted to a website in the late 1990s by Timothy C. Forbes. This version says that in 1904, an asylum prison in Clifton, Virginia, was shut down by a successful petition of the growing population of residents in Fairfax County. During the transfer of inmates to a new facility, the transport carrying the inmates crashed. Prisoners either were found dead or had escaped and were later found. All but one. During this time, police found the dead body of a man named Marcus Walster, whose remains were left in the same way as nearby rabbit carcasses. They were hanging in trees. Officials then decided to posit that the missing inmate, Douglas J. Griffin, is the murderer, and they name him the Bunny Man. The legend goes that the officials finally locate Griffin, but instead of being taken in, he was hit by an oncoming train. And it was revealed
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to
that
change the
Griffin
timing a
was
lot.
originally institutionalized for killing his own family and children on Easter Sunday. Other versions of the story are variations of this. There's a lot. There's too many to cover, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. Next up we have Vermont. And the urban legend for Vermont is the deep frozen people of Vermont. The legend goes that in order to save energy during long Vermont winters, natives would find a way to freeze the elderly in their community and then later thaw them out in spring. On December 21st, 1887, the Montpelier Argus and Patriot published, quote, a strange tale on the front page, and this piece described the aforementioned ritual. The quote-unquote true story is about how a poor northern Vermont family developed the idea of placing their elderly and weakest members into cold storage until spring. It was told as a diary entry, and it's actually a really cool story. I love stuff like this. These are my favorite kinds of urban legends. Nature, campfire stories, tales that got told from generation to generation. This kind of folklore stuff is so beautiful and interesting to me. Anyway, news outlets and officials kept this story going for like way too long. Articles and radio shows in the 1930s even were saying the story was, quote, absolutely true. In 1949, research traced the original tale to that 1889 newspaper piece. The author was finally identified as it had been originally published anonymously, and the author's name was Alan Morse, a farmer and storyteller. Apparently, he just wrote the story as fiction, and his daughter ended up submitting it to the paper, and for decades, no one realized it was a made-up horror story. This one is so cool. I love this shit. Next up, we have Utah, and for Utah, I'm talking about the curse on Escalante Petrified Forest. So Escalante Petrified Forest is a little state park in southern Utah. It's basically a hill covered in broken rainbow-colored logs that used to be real trees about 150 million years ago, before the wood slowly got replaced by quartz. A lot of hikers will walk up there and they'll want to take these as souvenirs. The park knows that people think like that, so they don't just say, don't steal. They have a whole legend about it. The legend goes that if you take petrified wood out of the park, your life starts going wrong. Like full-on bad luck, accidents, sickness, money problems, all stacked on top of each other. A former park ranger told local news that for as long as anyone can remember, they've been getting packages in the mail with stolen chunks of wood and apology letters from people who were trying to get rid of the curse. One of the letters that got read on TV is from a guy who admits he saw the warning signs and he thought that they were just scare tactics, so he took a piece anyway. After that, he says he had multiple serious injuries, his RV caught fire, and his car engine died right after the warranty expired. At some point, he basically panicked, mailed the rock back to Escalante, and begged them to put it back where it belonged because he'd become a true believer, quote unquote. The current staff say they still get letters like that all the time and have a literal box full of them sitting at the park. People blaming all kinds of disasters on like a rock that they pocketed. Over at Petrified Forest National Park, there's actually a huge pile of consciousness letters and returned rocks that someone made a whole photo book out of them called Bad Luck Hot Rocks. The National Parks Conservation Association talks about how hundreds of visitors have mailed pieces back over the years, and they're convinced that this stolen rock really ruined their life. Folklore sites trace that the curse goes back to at least the 1930s, and some writers connect it to older native stories about petrified wood being the remains of powerful spirits that shouldn't be messed with. Next up we have Texas. For Texas, the Candy Lady is the urban legend for this video. The Candy Lady legend originated in the town of Terrell, with roots from the 20th century. A woman named Clara Crane had married an older man with whom she had a daughter named Marcella, who died in an accident. The story goes that, blaming her husband for their daughter's death, Clara killed her husband with poisoned caramel candy. She was later institutionalized at the North Texas Lunatic Asylum, but was later released due to overcrowding. What a mistake they made. After Clara's dismissal, the children in the area began to go missing. Children started finding candy on their windowsills with notes inviting them to, quote, come play. Some children confessed to eating this mysterious candy before they mysteriously disappeared. A police deputy in town began investigating these young disappearances, but he was found dead with a fork in his eyes. This story of the Candy Lady has been passed down for many generations in Terrell, and while some details vary in different retellings, because that's just how culture works, the core elements of the story are still told. It's supposed to be a cautionary tale about trusting strangers and the dangers of being places you shouldn't be. Next up we have Tennessee. Tennessee's urban legend happens to be one of the most disturbing in my opinion. It goes by the name of Skinned Tom. The story goes that a charming, handsome man named Tom lived in rural Tennessee. He won over nearly every girl in his town and began driving to other towns because he wanted to meet even more women. In one of these other towns, he found a beautiful woman named Eleanor, and despite her marital status, they began seeing each other. There was a local lover's lane in town where they would secretly meet. No bad deed goes unpunished though, because at one point, one day, Eleanor's husband found out about the affair. He skinned Tom alive out of anger.
Holy
Here's where it gets creepy
shit.
and mysterious. When the cops got there to the scene of the murder, all they found was Tom's skin, the skin that had been removed. The legend goes that to this day, Tom's skinned body roams local lovers' lanes in rural Tennessee with a hunting knife, waiting for a cheating couple to teach them the same lesson that he had to learn. The folklore also even goes that he has his own song. It goes, "Have you seen the ghost of skinned Tom? Long white bones with the skin all gone? Ooh, 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 ooh. Wouldn't it be chilly with no skin on?" And low-key, banger. That's bars, dude. Next up, we got South Dakota. Walking Sam is the urban legend for South Dakota. Hundreds of Lakota Native Americans were killed during the Wounded Knee Massacre in 1890. The massacre took place near the Black Hills of South Dakota. Fast forward to December of 2014, between then and the following March, there were 103 suicide attempts made in the same place, the same town, all from people under the age of 26. This is awful, truly. With no leads, people began to point to an old tale that had existed in Lakota Native American tradition. Children raised in Lakota households grow up hearing of stick people, shadow people who attempt to lure children and teenagers from the safety of their homes at night. Over time, and with the explosion of popularity of the Slender Man online urban legend, these stories have likely morphed into one single figure known as Walking Sam. He goes by other names such as Tall Man or Stovepipe, Hat Bigfoot, but Walking Sam is described as a 7-foot-tall figure with eyes but no mouth, often wearing a stovepipe hat. When he raises his arms, you can see the bodies of previous victims hanging from them. He supposedly tells teenagers that they're worthless and do not deserve life. Despite this awful nature, some people defend him and say he's not necessarily malicious, but he might be just simply wandering through the forest as a punishment, and is simply looking for companionship. This kind of legend is really interesting, but it's really sad. Very sad. If you're struggling with these kinds of thoughts, please reach out for help. Please be safe out there. Okay, next state we have is South Carolina. The Boo Hag is the urban legend from South Carolina for this video. This urban legend comes from the Gula people, or Gullah people. Most people don't understand how a paint color could help fend off evil spirits, but you're about to learn. West African peoples were brought to the Americas for slavery in the 1500s. In South Carolina, they were brought to Sullivan's Island and worked on plantations. They banded together and formed great, strong communities as a coping mechanism for the horrible, inhuman, harsh lives they were forced into. Over the centuries, a new culture was born with its own language and folklore. A lot of legends came out of this culture, but one of them was the Boo Hag. The Boo Hag is a cross between a sleep paralysis demon and a vampire. It's a creature of the night. It is skinless with red muscles and prominent blue veins, and extremely reflective bright eyes. This cryptid is sometimes described as having flowing white hair, like the hair that, quote, grows on corpses, This led many older generations to believe that vampires were coming from the dead to feed. According to legend, the Boo Hags use witchcraft and evil magic to cause havoc on innocent people, and will paralyze you in your sleep, like the infamous painting of the demon that sits on your chest in the middle of the night. The lore goes deeper though. According to legend, the Boo Hag looks human during the day because it cloaks itself with its previous unlucky victim's body. At night, however, it escapes the skin and goes hunting. Where do Boo Hags come from? So your spirit stays behind to guide your descendants, according to Hoodoo. If you stay, but you're evil in life, your spirit will become a Boo Hag. Boo Hags can slip through any crack or crevice in your house at night, once it's in its true form. Once inside, it will find you sleeping and get on top of you, sucking the air from your lungs as you sleep. Now, the Boo Hag is freaky, I guess, because there's an old saying among the Gula or Gullah that says, "Don't let the hag ride ya." Now, what did I mean about the paint color earlier? Using indigo color to paint blues on doorways, etc. will keep the Boo Hags away. Legend says it's supposed to trick the spirits into believing they've come across a body of water, which they can't cross. Next state we have is Rhode Island. Mercy Brown is the urban legend for Rhode Island. In the best, most based, most drained Blade Corps town ever, Exeter, Rhode Island, several members of a family, the Brown family, suffered a sequence of tuberculosis infections in the 1880s and 90s. Mary Eliza and Mary Olive died first from this. Eventually, Mercy also fell ill and died. George Brown, the father of Mercy and Mary Olive, was persuaded to give permission to exhume several bodies of his family members. The bodies of the two Marys seemed normal, very decomposed, but the daughter, Mercy, had almost no decomposition, and even had blood still in the heart. Now, Mercy's brother, Edwin, also had contracted tuberculosis, not dead yet. So people in the 1890s, being as smart as they could be, they believed Mercy was undead and the cause of Edwin's illness. As superstition goes, Mercy's heart and liver were burned and the ashes were mixed with water to create a sort of potion for Edwin to drink and overcome the influence of the undead. Edwin died 2 months later. It's not funny that someone died, but it's funny that this bullshit just totally didn't work. And what remained of Mercy's body was buried in the cemetery of the local Baptist church. Next up we have Pennsylvania. The urban legend chosen for Pennsylvania is the legend of Charlie No Face, or the Green Man. This one honestly is sad. If you've lived much time at all in western Pennsylvania, you've probably heard some version of an urban legend about a strange figure lurking along dark country roads at night. If so, you've heard of Charlie No Face. Imagine you're driving down Route 351 late at night, a dark road, the world outside enveloped in shadow. Trees follow you on both sides, and you've been driving so long you need to keep yourself awake. Out of sleepiness, despite it, even out the corner of your eye, you see a shape barely lit by headlights. A man dressed in a green jacket and green pants walks by. You notice as you drive past that he has no face, blank skin where the eyes and mouth should be, no nose. You slam your brakes and turn back, but he's gone. What's the truth though? Where does he come from? At 8 years old in 1918, Raymond Robinson and some of his friends wandered near the Wallace Run Trolley Bridge, which was a popular hangout spot, but it came with a dangerous side catch. It had 22,000-volt electrical lines. Even knowing this and knowing a past story of a boy who had been fatally electrocuted on the same bridge, Raymond accepted a dare to climb up and take a look at a bird's nest on the bridge. 22,000 volts tore straight through him. Somehow Raymond didn't die. He lost both eyes and his nose though, and his arm was burned off at the elbow. Obviously, after this incident, Raymond spent most days indoors, helping his family business of making doormats, wallets, and belts. He avoided going outside as much as possible. However, under the shadow of nightfall, he had nothing to be afraid of. No one could see him. He craved fresh air, so eventually he began using a walking stick to walk along Route 351 with one foot on the pavement and the other on the gravel to stay oriented. But people began to notice. Word spread so much that people would purposefully drive along Route 351 hoping to see Charlie No Face. It's kind of sweet though, because a lot of people were really nice and brought him like beer or cigarettes and even took photos with him. A lot were mean though as well, and this story became an urban legend. Next state is Oregon. For Oregon, we are going to cover the urban legend of the Bandaged Man. The Bandage Man likes to terrorize motorists on lonely highways late at night, much like Charlie Noves. But the Bandage Man targets teens. He's said to stink of rotten flesh, and those who have encountered him say he walks with a strange gait, as if his arms and legs are not attached. But he's fast, and he jumps into beds of passing pickup trucks. They say the Bandage Man was once a normal man, a logger, who was involved in a sawmill accident. They say he fell into a wood chipper. This is why he needs all the bandages. Legend has it that he did get into an ambulance, but a rock slide buried the ambulance he was taken in. This killed the driver, but the victim disappeared. Witnesses say they've seen him eat dogs and bats, which is how we think he survives out there, all alone. Next we have Oklahoma. For Oklahoma, we're going to cover the urban legend of the Men in Black at Shaman's Portal. Located in the penis of Oklahoma is Shaman's Portal, a set of mysterious sand dunes at Beaver Dunes Park. This place has also been nicknamed Oklahoma's Bermuda Triangle. The urban legend starts all the way back in 1541. Spanish explorer Francisco Vasquez de Coronado and his men traversed the dunes. According to legend, 3 of his men vanished under the glow of strange green lighting, which Coronado wrote in his journal was, quote, the work of the devil. Apparently, though, he should have known better. Local Native American guides had told them before that the dunes were evil, and the natives called it Shaman's Portal, which they believed was perhaps a gateway between worlds. According to local accounts, people who tried investigating the dunes, whether they were scientists, UFO researchers, or just random people, claimed that they saw mysterious men in dark suits who looked completely out of place in the dunes, even out of place in rural Oklahoma. One of the most repeated stories is about an archaeologist named Dr. Mark Thatcher from Oklahoma State University, who allegedly brought instruments out to the dunes in the 1990s and found weird anomalies in the soil, like ionization that looked similar to a crash site. And then, not long after, men described as looking exactly like the Men in Black showed up and ordered him to stop his work. So who knows? What are these men hiding in the penis of Oklahoma? Is Pulled Pork Park real? I guess we'll never know as long as those men are still there. Next up, we got Ohio. The urban legend we're going to cover for Ohio
The what?
is another cryptid, this one being the Loveland Frog. This one is so cool. In the 1950s, a traveling businessman was driving late at night along the Little Miami River. He claimed he saw 3 strange creatures
That's
standing
funny.
upright on 2 legs, about 3 to 4 feet tall, with wrinkled, leathery skin and froggish faces. According to him, one of them held a wand that emitted fire or sparks. From there, the legend spread violently. By the 60s, fishermen and passers-by would always talk about the supposed frogmen near riverbanks and under bridges in Loveland, which, by the way, is a tiny town an hour north of Cincinnati. Now, we're about 30 minutes into the video and I thought this would be a good time to prove that I'm not AI. So I'm gonna go away from the microphone like this, because people say that this is something that AI can't replicate. I'm gonna also turn the microphone around like this. I hope this works, guys. I promise I'm not an AI voice. Okay, back to the Loveland Frog. So that original story was in the 50s and 60s, but then in 1972, everything changed. 2 separate police officers claimed to have each had their own encounter with the Loveland Frog within weeks of each other. Officer Ray Shockey said he saw something crouched by the road that bolted upright, like a frog, climbed over the guardrail, and vanished into the river. Not even weeks later, Officer Mark Matthews reported seeing the frogman, although unfortunately he later recanted and said he probably thinks it was just an iguana that had lost its tail. And these stories became the most famous accounts of the Loveland Frog. Also, this right here is the most famous picture of one, and holy shit, this looks so cool. I want to meet one, bro. Like W blunt rotation. Next up is North Dakota. We have a weird one here. For North Dakota, we have the legend of the Mini-Washitu. Also known as the water monster of the Missouri River, the Mini-Washitu is a terrifying hairy beast that supposedly travels the Missouri River in central North Dakota. This guy is 7 or 8 feet tall, has tough bison-like hide and fur, has a single eye and a single bison horn above his eye. He also has, like, human hands and a chupacabra's spiny back. Natives to this area, such as the Mandan tribes, would say the Mini-Washitu would control spring breakup by smashing the river ice as the temperatures would rise, and that the creature was more active in the warming temperatures. As far as sightings go, I found one account. It was written down by Melvin Randolph Gilmore, a curator for the North Dakota State Historical Society. He said it was dreadful to see. He said that not too long ago this being was seen by a man. The man saw the creature and immediately everything in his eyesight became dark. He was barely able to get home, and even though he did, once he got home, he lost reason, which I guess means he went crazy, and shortly after that, he died. Guys, I'm so excited. Next up, we have North Carolina, my home state. As I'm writing this, I don't know if it's out yet, I doubt it will be, but I'm also working on a video all about the horrors of the Appalachia, which is a lot of it is in North Carolina, and I'm very excited about that. So for this video that we're in now, I chose a cryptid to talk about North Carolina, the beast of Bladenboro. Bladenboro is a small, tiny community surrounded by pine wood and swamps. On December 29th, 1953, a local woman heard her neighbor's dogs barking and whimpering. When she went out to investigate, she saw a large cat-like creature skulk off into the darkness. This was the very first sighting ever of the beast of Bladenboro, but it wasn't the last. 2 days later, the creature came back, and it came back with a fight. On New Year's Eve, 2 days later, Police Chief Roy Fairs was called out to the farm of Woody Storm. 2 of Storm's dogs had been killed by something large and powerful, and the bodies had been completely drained of blood. More reports came in of people's dogs being attacked by a large creature and dragged into the woods with their blood gone. People said that they saw an animal that was 3 feet long, 20 inches high, with a long tail and a cat's face. Others reported hearing the creature's scream coming from swamps, saying it also sounded like a woman in distress. On January 1st, the bodies of 2 more dogs were discovered. At this point, since the bodies also had no blood, Chief Fors decided it was time he needed extra help. A team of professional hunters came from Wilmington to catch the animal. Chief Fors also interestingly joined them. Then, on January 5th, the worst happened. The beast of Bladenboro attacked a human. That evening, a woman named Mrs. C.E. Kinsella heard the sound of whimpering dogs outside her house. She went out to investigate and saw a large cat-like creature that proceeded to pounce towards her. Mrs. Kinsella screamed and her husband came outside, and the beast was frightened and ran away. And right here is an actual real news article chronicling this. After a human became a victim, even if it didn't end in death, people went ballistic. Bladenboro was overwhelmed with hundreds of hunters, ending in over 600 men from as far away as Tennessee, all joining together to catch the beast. A week later, after fear and darkness and no luck, the hunt was called off. But the fear in the town was palpable. This thing was never caught. Maybe it's still out there, walking around the woods of Bladenboro. Next up, New York is here, and our urban legend for this state comes from Staten Island. It's called Cropsey. Cropsey was an urban legend in Staten Island through the 1970s and 80s. Cropsey was given credit for the disappearances of many children. The legend described Cropsey as an escaped mental patient who lived at the abandoned Willowbrook Mental Institution, who would come out late at night and snatch kids off the streets. Some accounts said he had a hook for a hand, and some accounts said he would wield a bloody axe. But it turns out, after all that, Cropsey wasn't really an urban legend after all. Andre Rand was arrested and convicted of kidnapping and murder. It turns out Rand was a real serial killer and Cropsey was an urban legend made up to explain away his crimes. So everything is solved, right? Not exactly. There are still theories that say that Rand was a Satanist who took the kids for sacrifices. And some say that he wasn't working alone, and that maybe his accomplices are still out there. Next up is New Mexico. For New Mexico, we're going to cover the legend of La Mala Hora. This translates to English as the evil hour. Let me explain the Mexican version of the tale first, and then I'll explain the American New Mexico version of the tale. La Mala Hora appears as a beautiful, long-haired woman dressed in white, walking along the side of the road at night. She's said to be so beautiful, in fact, that any man who encounters her is so taken by her beauty and seduction that he will follow her mindlessly. Surprisingly, there have been a lucky few who have met La Mala Hora and actually lived to tell the tale. They say that after following her a while, they start to lose their sense of direction. For example, if they carried a lamp, it would stop working all of a sudden. They would also notice that the woman is floating rather than walking, or they would notice that the woman's toes are backwards. Now, what about the version that has become popular in New Mexico? Well, that all starts in 1910. In 1910, Aurelio Espinosa, who was an influential professor, especially in the promotion of the study of Spanish, described La Mala Hora as an evil spirit that haunts the crossroads at night, hunting those who like to travel alone. According to legend, if your eyes see the creature, you will be driven permanently insane. Espinosa also says that La Mala Hora looks like a large lock of wool, or even an entire fleece, that expands and contracts in size before its viewer. It rarely appears in human form, apparently. More modern New Mexican versions of La Mala Hora describe her as a terrifying woman in black, who appear to travelers at night when a death is about to occur. There's a particular story that's floating around the internet of a woman driving alone at night on the way to Santa Fe. She almost literally runs into a demonic woman on the highway. The next morning, she gets news that her husband, who had been away on a business trip, had been killed. Next up we have New Jersey. And for New Jersey, we're going to explore the
All right, we got 6 frames down. And it's looking good so far. I think so. Because, let me see if I compare how the frames looked beforehand. I mean, I'm gonna export these actually. That might be all that I work on on this one for now. I might go eat. Actually, no, I don't want to. I don't want to dox the names of the people that requested these. I might go eat right now. There's a chance I might do some more recording later for another segment that I want to do. But for now, honestly, I'm going to stream again tomorrow. It's probably going to be more commission work. I really do want to blitz all these commissions maybe before the month ends. That's my hard deadline. And we'll see. Yeah, that's my hard deadline, end of the month. I have 4 more to go after this. And then the rest are just like free requests, which I'm still going to do, but I'm probably not going to do them with as much urgency. Because I do feel like the harder you work, the easier it is to fall for burnout. So I am going to probably work for a few more frames after I finish eating, but yeah, I'm gonna eat dinner. Maybe I'll do a few more frames. I'm gonna export how it used to look before and how it looks now, and so I can have all that there. And I'm probably gonna start posting. And I might spend the rest of the evening just planning out some reels for Instagram, because the same reels that I post on Instagram I can post on TikTok and YouTube Shorts. And yeah, I mean, if I don't do the recording for the next segment tonight, maybe I'll stream it. I don't know. I do like to wait until everyone has gone upstairs, because I do like I'm Hispanic, so like we do live as a family here. So I don't want to keep anyone up here. Usually that might be a night recording. So maybe if I do record those, I might do like a dual stream where I stream earlier in the day, like around this time, and closer to like 9 p.m. Late reply, but you are so welcome. And those sketches are on Little Witch Academia coming out good. Oh my god, thank you so much. I do have a Little Witch Academia crossover piece. I plan to work on myself. Speaking of which, just had dinner. Nice. Yeah, that's so interesting. I was just talking about stopping the stream and going to eat dinner. But nice. I want to see your crossover work. I want to see your piece that you're working on. That sounds awesome. You only post on DeviantArt, right? Or do you have like an Instagram as well? I'd love to follow you anywhere else that you're on so I can keep up. Oh, man. It's been good so far. Good work today. I'm proud of it. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like when I finish rendering it. We'll see. I'm excited to start working on my personal works. Like I really want to start working on that. I'd love to do a short, maybe May. I'd like to work on it May. Oh man, yeah, 3 hours seems to be my limit. I'm at 240. Yeah, I might stop here though. But thank you for stopping by. You're only on DeviantArt, yet I do have Art Fight and Toy House. Interesting. I've never heard of those. Let me take a picture of that. You said Art Fight and Toy House. Never heard of that. But I'm gonna look them up. Are they platforms as well? Never heard of them. All right. Well, I'm gonna go eat right now. And thank you for stopping by. It really does mean a lot. Since I'm trying to come back to stream a lot, so I might change it up so I don't bore everyone just doing commission work. But I'd like to get more people watching, so I'm gonna try and do an effort of pushing more different type of content on stream. So thank you again. I'll see you tomorrow, maybe tonight. I might stream again tonight if I do a different